You remember how to do this?
Probably not. Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Podcast 41. I guess technically the start of Season 2, but we'll get to that in just a minute. This is going to be the best of 2024. Barry and I have combed through all of the releases looking for what is the best game of 2024, and we believe that we have some banger suggestions, and if you disagree, you can let us know in the comments. And without further vamping, Barry, you're here. You're back. Welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Sporting a little thicker beard. They were handing those out in the game design course, which of course has given rise to the belief that there are no board game design women. They just spring out of a hole in the ground. Glad to be back. 2024, big year for games.
Yeah, we were just discussing that we thought the 24 crop was a significant improvement over the 23 crop, which was our last best of episode.
Correct. And why does it take us 18 months to review a year? Well, mostly because it takes that long to play half the games, Whilst you're saying that is the best games of 2024 that we've played.
Yeah, strictly within the context of we've played them more than once. I guess we've got a category here called biggest disappointments, where maybe once was enough, but they're of course not the best of 2024.
Yes.
But we're just going to get straight into talking about games. I've missed this. It's been a while. We want to talk about some games, and we're going to talk about, the cult of the old.
The cult, yeah, I don't know, I think if we go back to the very early podcasts, there's a point where I was quite down on what was coming out. I think that was sort of 2023. A lot of it wasn't for me. Like Dune Imperium, Uprising was out, but that was a rehash. The other big hits for the year were maybe like Ticket to Ride Legacy in the end, but that was a one and done. I've not gone back to that. And so just kind of there's nothing here for me. But 2024, I've found there are games that I'm still playing, and in fact still played this week. So I'm excited to talk about some of them.
Yep. No, 100%. And I'm thinking about also how I think Earthborn Rangers was my pick for 2023, I think. Mm-hmm. And I have gone back to that. There's also new content for it.
And a whole new board game.
La Familia, sticks at the back of my head. I've not played that since the year it came out, but I keep thinking I'd like to go back to it. But they also there was an expansion out in 2024 for it, which didn't make our best of expansions mode because I don't think it'll be good.
Oh, and you've not played it, so hard to put it on the best of list.
Well, literally, it just turns it from a 2v2 team game. It gives it a 3-player mode, not a 2-player mode.
Odd choice, but because never let it be said that we are happy, cheery people, why don't we kick off with the games that we were most disappointed with in 2024? And I will throw into the ring a game that I bought and subsequently have got rid of. In fact, I got rid of it at Expo last year, so a whole year ago now. And that game was the 2-player Shark versus Octopus Kelp. In this game, one player's an octopus, one player's a shark. Octopus trying to survive, the shark's trying to eat them.
Yeah.
Cool premise. Very good looking game.
Beautiful production.
Lots going on, different modules to play around with. But after a few games, in fact, after a couple of games, it became very obvious what a dominant strategy was. And so then you're just trying to find a way around that for the remaining games. And we did play, I don't know, like a dozen times or something, a couple of different modules. But it never felt like a particularly tight and the kind of game where 2 players are going to develop a meta and the back and forth there. So I ended up just deciding it wasn't for me and got rid of it. But it looked so good, and that first game was fun, and then it just quickly petered off. And I wonder if there is a Kickstarter expansion coming, or crowdfunding expansion coming. I don't know if that's going to do anything to address some of the criticisms of the game, but too late. I'm gone.
Yeah, and I think that that's sort of, I think that that's possibly a symptom of the market being incredibly oversaturated, especially for two-player head-to-head games, which at one time were a sort of a rarity and have, over the last sort of 5 years, had a major renaissance. I think, yeah, a beautiful production. The asymmetrical play was interesting, but it just didn't it didn't feel like there was enough meaningful play and counterplay. It was hard to sort of a lot of what the shark wanted to do was just kind of build up their own tableau and then find the octopus. And that finding of the octopus, which is I suppose the hidden spatial part, didn't seem prevalent enough to what the shark was doing. And then that rock paper scissors sort of resolution when they found the octopus, it felt like a lot of the play the shark was doing was trying to build in tools to make that more favorable.
Yeah.
And the octopus was just kind of deck hunting. Again, like their play wasn't sort of interesting enough, but it was also it felt too isolated for a two-player game. And this is the only game that I've done this for because of time constraints. But I went on to try and find some sort of hidden movement alternatives. And I wrote down Terrorscape because it's roughly the same length, albeit it's a huge big box, and sometimes the setup can be a bear because you have to build this giant dice tower screen to hide the movement. But Terrorscape's great. We've talked about it a lot on the show. And Not Alone, which is this little sort of alien game where you're like survivors that have crashed on a planet and there's an alien running around trying to get you and it's trying to guess what location you're in. It scratches a similar sort of itch, but it's more interesting. And both of those games can have higher player capacities, but also work well at 2. But actually, I was also thinking about Star Wars Rebellion, and I didn't list it because it's all day, right?
Yeah,
like it's the opposite. Like Kelp is like a 60-minute game, and Rebellion's all day. But if you'd given me something like the Rebellion experience distilled down, that would be really interesting. But it feels like you're playing two individual games which are hung around this central competitive element, but the individual games are largely just trying to mitigate the random possibilities of the central element, and it's not particularly interesting.
Yeah, like I did have some fun with it, to be fair, but it's not a game that I can see myself constantly going back to. So I don't have enough room on my shelves. Gone.
Yep, I like rolling the dice. And if you want to hear us talk about Kelp some more, we talked about it on podcast 15 and podcast 16.
Back in the ye olde days. Another game I didn't enjoy, which may or may not be surprising, is Wyrmspan. So I do now like Wingspan. If you recall, my journey with it was, first time I played it, I don't know, everybody's all hyped up about. But now I find a lot of enjoyment from the expansions, from the variety of birds, from the actual just chill nature of the game itself and the tableau building. I like Finspan. I like Finspan out of the box. Very similar game, but different enough. I think a big part of it is I just enjoy that kind of art style, and I've all grown up with nature books and whatever else, and it's just kind of there. So Wyrmspan, whilst being fake animals, I don't know, I hate to break it to people, but dragons aren't real. The biggest thing I hated was that shared objective board for some reason. I hated that. When I was working on getting an objective, I've got the dragon in my hand, I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to move my guild marker along to get that bonus, and somebody takes it from me and I can no longer have it. Can't stand it. Can't stand it. Like everything else in it would be fine-ish. It wouldn't have been a big disappointment without that, I think, but I got really annoyed that somebody that, and it was incidental as well, right? It's not like somebody's targeting me to stop me doing something in particular. Like it's a passive, I've got nothing else to do here, so I'm just going to do this, and I'll take that bonus that you were trying to build trying to get your big dragon to get, or you've saved up that 7 coster or whatever to try and get for free, but I'll take it for my 2 coster. So, you son of a gun. So yeah, I couldn't tell you that, and I don't think you've played Wyrmspan, so I'm not sure.
So I haven't. What I was gonna, I'm unfamiliar with the objective system, although I can get what you're putting down. just in terms of how it works. So I was going to ask you actually, because in Wingspan they've got, of course, the end of round objectives that can be competitive or cooperative. So I always play on the green side, which is the competitive side. But do you play on the green side?
It's not the same. It's not the same thing. It's a first come, first serve bonus.
Yeah.
Rather
so it's
than
the fact that people can poach it in the round.
Yeah.
That's what bothers you.
Yeah, I don't care if people outplay me throughout the round to get that objective. It's not an objective. It's a track you're moving around where you're able to claim bonuses based on getting there first. So you can say, oh, it's a bit of a race. Yeah, but like I found there was no way to anticipate when my opponents were going to be moving on that track and whether they were going to get to something before me or not. And I didn't enjoy it when I was relying on something that was there. Like if every player got it when they got to that point, I probably wouldn't have had a big deal, a problem with it. But the fact it was just, you get there first, that one-time bonus is gone. And it's not like it bothers me in other games. It has really bothered me in this game.
Well, fair enough. I skipped Wyrmspan because I just didn't feel like it was doing enough that I wasn't getting out of Wingspan. And I'm like, Wingspan is a game I keep because the people around me like it, and that's enough.
Yeah, sometimes. I've come to have a deep appreciation for Wingspan. I've played hundreds of games now on the app and in real life. I've still not played Americas. I have the new expansion with the hummingbirds, but keen to give that a go. And I'm just happy playing it. Like, I have a good time now. I think my expectations were mismatched initially, where I thought it was going to be the next great tableau builder. Yes, you build your tableau, but it's not like a combo-y. I mean, it is, but it isn't, you know. Anyway.
It's more like sort of small efficiencies rather than big bonanza combo builder.
Correct.
But I've also heard good feedback about Finspan. The people I know who've tried it have really liked it, so I would be interested in giving that a try.
Yeah. Same but different. And then the final one I wanted to point out, which we may chat about a bit more later, is the game Civolution. And I have mentioned that previously, podcast 22. If people want to go back to it, you talked about it as well. The more I think about it, the more it just annoys me it exists. Like, I don't want to manage 18 resources, and I don't want to have to pick from.
You don't have to. In fact, you can't. No, you have to. You have to be really diligent. So we will talk about Civolution in more detail later. But yeah, I can certainly appreciate your criticisms of it, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit further on in the podcast.
Was there anything else that you did not enjoy last year, or not last year, year before, in fact?
I think, like, for me, like, a big miss was Beyond the Horizon. Yeah, because I really like Beyond the Sun.
Yeah, me too.
And I liked the premise of Beyond the Horizon, but the player powers were really broken. You can't play without them. And it just wasn't doing it didn't make the most of the differences. I also found Power Grid Outpost a little disappointing. I wanted to get more out of that. I wanted it to do a little bit more with the sort of the tableau building part of it, you know, that had people bidding on those other cards. So I was hoping the auction would become more sort of interesting and opaque as people were trying to evaluate different cards. That weren't just power grid stations, but it was still very much the same sort of mathematical heads down calculational power grid, which is fine, but is not something I get especially excited about. Like, I'm happy to play power grid, but I don't have one.
Yeah. I'm always down for power grid. I'm not good at power grid, let's be clear, but I win every time I've played, and everybody's like, oh, Barry's figured it out, we're not playing that. It's like, I haven't figured it out. It just happened. It's only like 3 games, but that was enough to people would stop playing with me. Okay, fine.
We live in hope.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we can move on to best expansions. It's time to get positive. Stuff we really liked.
So actually there wasn't a huge number of expansions, I don't think, from the year that was really head and shoulders adds to the base game, which is what you're looking for in expansion, whether it's more of the same or whether it is increases the breadth, increases the depth, increases the decision space, adds a little something. But one game I will highlight here, Dominion Rising Sun. So you might think, well, it's another the 17th expansion. There's another expansion.
Has that game had an
coming.
expansion?
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah,
Finally more cards for Dominion.
And the if you've played Dominion, I'll explain a little bit. If you don't play Dominion, go play Dominion. It's the easiest. This is your first basic but most expansive deck builder at this point, with all the different expansions that are out there. So things
I believe the app is free for the core set. Is that right?
That could be true, yes. And then you pay for the expansions.
I
if
think
not,
that's...
there are online versions that you can officially.
So you can try Dominion. I'm sure you can try Dominion for free.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you what, I don't think you get the base set for free. I think you get the daily challenge for free each day. Who knows?
Still try it.
Yeah, you can still try it and play it. And you get a good
There's gotta be
variety
a
of
way.
things from there. Anyway, the prophecies it adds, you play cards for prophecies and then they tick down as the game progresses, and then the prophecy will trigger when somebody's played enough of the prophecy cards to remove all the things on them. And that was really good, and like the tension from when you're going to trigger that and who's going to trigger that and who's going to get the most benefit out of it when it happens, and can you play into it, was interesting. But one of the small expansions previously was Alchemy, and it was a self-contained potions. What's the word I'm after here? Like resource potions.
Yeah, it's the first one that added an entirely new resource to the game, and it's the only one that's done that. Normally, you're just buying more cards with the money that comes in the game, and games have added escalating money. Actually, just one as well. But this is the first one that added a completely new resource type that was used for buying cards.
Yeah, and it's only within that one set. And so prophecies don't make a return in other sets potentially destined to be that. You don't want to have a prophecy with a single prophecy card to choose from. Generally, I mean, sometimes it might work, but it's either going to be really good and so everybody goes for it, or it's going to be not worth getting and so nobody goes for it. And it's that binary element that sometimes doesn't work depending on your kingdom that you get set up. But this one brings back debt, which was first seen in Empires. Debt's really good. You can take debt so you can get bigger things or better things, but then you can't do anything else till you paid that back. And so it's like the risk reward. Can I take this now? Is it worth practically skipping my next turn to pay it off? And then there's shadow cards, which you shuffle into your deck, but you always know where they are.
Okay.
You kind of stick them out so you can see.
They have a different back?
They do have a different back, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember because I'm playing most of this digitally.
They're just
now.
bigger. They're just bigger than the other cards.
They all get shoved to the bottom. But this, along with one of the prophecies, Divine Wind, which resets all the kingdoms. So like you would take away the 10 you've got and you get 10 new ones. Now I've got all my Dominion cards in a big set of drawers. So yes, theoretically feasible. But both of those just kind of make it into a digital expansion, right? Managing your shadow cards online, easy. Swapping out 10 cards or 10 stacks of cards, easy. Real life, not so much, right?
Wait, so this new card, it changes the whole kingdom set?
Correct, yeah. So you get rid of the 10 out there. It's like the black market.
That's really fun. Yeah, it's like the black market. So the black market was a promo card, and what it would do when you put it in the game is it would make a separate deck of cards out of the randomizers. So each expansion would come with a set of randomizer cards, so you could randomize which cards you played with in each game if you wanted. It was an individual card from each set that had a different back, and the black market would turn the randomizers into its own deck, and then you could buy those cards, but then when you bought it you had to go and find the actual card and put it in your deck because the back was different. And it's just like, this is a fun idea. In practice it's a lot of administration.
Yeah, particularly now there are 3,000 plus cards for Dominion to find.
I mean, I don't know anyone that actually uses the randomizer cards if they have all of Dominion, because it's too big.
No, you do it on the app.
Many. Yeah, just do it on an app. Yep.
But anyway, and there's some dubious art in there. Dominion does not have a consistent good art set, and this is no
love
exception.
That about it. At least I know it's not AI.
Yeah. Some art's great, some art's not so great. So this is definitely an advanced set. It highlights how bad I am at the game. And if you don't already like Dominion, there's it's not for you, right? It's not going to win over any new players. This is for people that are... This is an expert level expansion, I would say. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an expert, so I should never have bought it. You're not keeping up with Dominion, are you?
So I'm not playing. I haven't yet played Rising Sun. I've played all the other expansions, but not comprehensively.
Yeah.
You know, so what I've done is, so when we play Dominion, we typically just go throw in whatever, and then like if the new expansion stuff comes up, I see it and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. But now I've sort of missed enough expansions that whenever I go to play, I always get cards I've never seen before. So like I'm not sort of, and like it would be hard for me to since basically everything since I think was Empires After Dark Ages.
Yes.
And then I think it was Renaissance.
I couldn't tell you the order they came out in.
Or was Renaissance earlier? I think basically after Empires, I believe. It's sort of the expansions that came out after Empires is where I start to lose track of what's specifically in each expansion and what new mechanism they're introducing.
That's only been a mere 8-9 expansions since then.
I know. It's like 17. It's insane.
So I did want to highlight that. Will I go or will you go?
Yes, actually, I'm interested in your take on this one. I put in War of the Ring, the card game Fire and Swords, which I discussed on podcast episode 30. I really like the War of the Ring, the card game. I think it's great. I've had only good times playing it. It is a team-based game. It should be a team-based game. It doesn't have to be, but it's centered, or you've played it solo. I still haven't tried it solo. So it's centered around 2v2. Fire and Swords is the second expansion, and what it does is it gives you a bunch of new cards so you can break out into 3v3. It also gives you these sort of little scenarios that are ongoing and you can commit resources to complete, which are a nice little extra. But the big thing is that it goes up to 3v3. And functionally, like what you used to have was like two good players, and one is like the hobbits and the elves, I think, and the other is like, you know, the humans and the Rohirrim and Gondor and everyone else. And so you've got these two sort of interesting decks acting side by side. I think the wizards are with the Gandalf is with the hobbits, I think. It doesn't matter. The point is you've got two interesting decks, and it's the same for evil. One is Saruman with the Uruk-hai and Isengard, and the other is Mordor with orcs and the Nazgul, and two interesting. And then I guess they were like, where do we find these other two decks? So now you've got like, you know, these one deck on either side, which are just like the extras, you know, like those people that you're like, they weren't in the movie, but I think I remember them from the book.
The Men of Dale, yes, makes sense to have them in there. And then you have sort of the ne'er-do-wells, you know,
they call it the Ruffians faction.
Yeah. So I don't even know if Sharky's in there. So like going back to the Scouring of the Shire or Bill Ferny from Brie or whatever.
So I believe that they are in there. And the woman who defends the Shire with her umbrella, I think she's in there.
Sackville Baggins.
She's in the good deck, I think. But so the point is that, you know, you've got one player on either side that have decks which are relatively well balanced, so contributing to the gameplay, but slightly less appealing in terms of their actual content, just in terms of, you know, playing out the story and the characters. But I really, really liked the 3v3 version of the game. I've played it a few times now. I think it's great fun, and sometimes like the challenge of the game really is that it's asking you often to just delete cards out of your deck to sort of hunt for cards and find cards and be more efficient. And because it's this race through the story of Lord of the Rings, you're trying to sort of win these different battlefields as you go along, and it really is a game of resource management where your resource is your deck. You want to burn through it quick enough that you can sort of find your powerful combos and get your key cards onto the table, and then, you know, win some battlefields so an enemy doesn't get ahead. But you don't want to burn through your deck so fast that you're left at the end starved of resources while your opponents still have enough to close the game out. And so what is nice in the 3-player game is like that dynamic is even more interesting because you can have a player that sort of takes a little bit of a backseat to build up a powerful combo while other players are maybe pushing the resources, or you can have like all 3 players just rush out the gate and they're like, we're winning by card 4 going home, you know? And so I think it opens up even more interesting dynamics. I really, really like the 3v3 game. I do think if you're not interested in that, I'm not sure how much is in this expansion for you, and I think that's your take as well.
Yeah, so I very much enjoyed the first expansion, which introduced solo mode. I enjoyed the full trilogy mode of the game, and I find that the paths and the battlefields are very evocative of telling that tale. Now, this new expansion does add in new paths and new battlefields, and I find sometimes when they come up, it sort of loses me a little bit. I never played enough to get a meta, right? But we always kind of knew what was a possibility between the two, like the 2 paths that were or 2 or 3 paths that were possible, and then adding another one in, and suddenly it gets, well, actually, I can't really account for whether I'm going to get a good one or a bad one here. So it takes away a little. I've not played it 3v3. I've only played solo and 2v2. 3v3 it might shine, right? That might be the thing, and introducing more players is a good thing for an expansion, and seems like it's done it the right way. But and like you say, the cards themselves are not the most inspiring of characters. But there's still good cards in there. Like there's strong cards in there. It's not like you're sidelined if you end up with those decks. So
yeah, well, exactly. You're still effective in the game. It's just a sort of a thematic thing, and I think you could play with the new decks, but without using the new path cards if you were. If you
like
wanted to keep that less random.
I'm not sure what there might even be a format for that. So the game tells you who's in what deck and what the path and battlefields are to play out a shortened scenario, a longer scenario. I think my problem was I played the full thing, which adds effectively another step each step, and it just kind of dragged on a bit. So maybe at 6 players that was. But there's another new expansion coming this year.
What more is there?
They've done it. They've done it all.
There's no more. There's no more to add. Well, we'll have to have a look and see.
Stephen Colbert, and you're right here. He's writing the new one. And then there's The Hunt for Gollum. That's coming out this year. New movie. Next year. This year.
Yeah, I mean, my hot take, I suppose, is that I haven't really enjoyed any of the new stuff past the Return of the King, But
no, I don't think that's a terribly hot take, to be honest.
No, maybe not. Yeah. People apologetically like The Hobbit. And I love the book, by the way. I love The Hobbit, the book. All right, back to you, Barry.
Yep, so another, just this quick one this time. So Ancient Knowledge Heritage, a relatively small expansion, adds about 25% of the cards again. This is one that increases variety. And I've actually never played Ancient Knowledge without the expansion, except I think maybe on Board Game Arena. But in real life, I've always played with the expansion. I got it at the same time. And it seems to have opened up a number of strategies within it where you can take on a bit more of the negative resource that you accumulate and then either turn it into an advantage by playing cards into your tableau that care that you've got a lot of bad resources, or get rid of it, clear them out before the end of the game. And so whenever we play, we always have a really good time with it. It also adds a solo mode, which works fine, and a campaign, which I've not really tried, but I think it's sort of escalating difficulty as it goes through. But again, this is an expansion that added some breadth and a little bit of depth to a game that was already a lot of fun.
Very good. Well, I've got Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, more stuff. There were 3 expansions. I noticed actually when I was looking at this that the Expanded Galaxy expansion came out in 2023, which is wild because you couldn't use it until these expansions came out. So these are Outcasts expansion, Seekers expansion, and the Warped Universe expansion, all released in 2024. I really like Eclipse Second Dawn, so I was very happy to have more for it. The Outcasts and Seekers are each a box that contains 2 new factions. I think the Outcasts box is great. It comes with the Row Indie Syndicate, who are pirates who get a lot of money, but they can't build dreadnoughts, and the Exiles, who can build orbitals from the outset. Their orbitals are also their space bases, so they just kind of go for hyper defensive resource mode, and they're also worth a point, so you have to try and destroy those, and you can take them from them, which is great. The Seekers box comes with the Magellan and the Enlightened of Lyra, and they're both kind of wonky factions, and nobody who's played them has really been able to figure out how to do well with them, including myself. So that's a harder one to recommend. If you like just more stuff, then sure, it's not bad, and also the Magellan are fuchsia pink, which is great. But the Enlightened of Lyra have like a path of shrines that they're building on, and there's potentially big bonuses if you can build all the shrines, but everyone's really struggled to get the shrines out, and most of the time they just get blown up. And the Magellan really want to find the discovery tokens that have ancient tech on them, which is a complete and utter gamble. Like whenever you get one of those, you get really excited because the tech's always really good. And then you need to like shove it in a ship right away. And the Magellan, I think they start with one, but then also when they find them, they want to like hang on to them. And you could spend the whole game looking for them and never find one, which is why it's kind of a bummer. So I think that Outcast box is, the Seekers box is a really hard to recommend set. The Warped Universe is simply tiles that make the board smaller. And you can use one set to make the 5-player board smaller and 2 sets to make the 4-player board smaller. I really, really like these. It's just, it's quite they're £12, I think, each. So if you want to make the 4-player map smaller, it's like £25, which is expensive. You could just print off some stuff online and replace them. But they are nice. It's a nice production. The tiles for the game are great, and these fit in with that. They add these direct lines, which are not too bad to eyeball. It looks a bit like spaghetti when you're setting it up, but it's not too bad when you're playing. But it functionally just means you don't need to bother with the Guardians, so you're getting into the player-to-player conflict much quicker. The Guardians are NPCs that you add at lower player counts to mimic the missing players, because really the board is designed for 6 players, and then every lower player count is just removing players and putting in NPCs. So you can ditch all the NPCs. Anyway, you can get rid of all that. So I like that set. And then also it's compatible with the Expanded Universe, Expanded Galaxy, which is the expansion that lets you go up. So now that you've got the new factions, the Seekers and the Outcasts, you can actually go up to 9 players, which I've never played with 2nd edition. We did play 8 players in 1st edition a few times. It's long. I really like it. I'm a Eclipse Maximum Chaosist. I like Maximum Chaos in Eclipse. I think it's a silly game that's full of luck and nonsense. I'm not coming here for my Euro style strategy. I just want to, pew pew the ships and play with the Lego ships, and that's it. And so I don't mind playing at those counts. What the original had, which this expansion adds, is simultaneous turns, because functionally 2 players are almost always opposite, so you have those 2 players play at the same time. And there's sort of rules for what happens if they're going to interact, but you can have 2 players playing simultaneously, so the downtime doesn't get horrendous. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend this. I think it's a really fun big con experience, for example, but probably not ideal for a game night. But you can get the Expanded Galaxy for that, and the Warped Universe also lets you manage the 7 and 8 player boards so that they're better balanced as well. Whereas the 9-player board is something else entirely. But just more stuff for Eclipse. Love Eclipse, so happy to have more stuff. But Outcasts is great. Seekers, if you're a completionist. But that's it.
Yeah, like Eclipse, but never played with any of the expansions. Sounds cool. last one from me on the best expansions, and this is head and shoulders the best expansion of the year. If this was a standalone game, it would have been third in my top 10, but I figured I'll put it in the expansion section, and that is Flamme Rouge Grand Tour. So the expansion to the cycling game Flamme Rouge, and this adds a campaign-style multi-stage tournaments. Now, something like this kind of existed, particularly in the app already, but this codifies it. This adds in a number of tokens where you're doing a lot of things that you would do during a sort of the Tour de France and cycle stages, where you got the sprint stages, get the green jersey, and you've got the still a race to the end, but you can pick up points even though you're not winning, or at least you're not winning the race outright. So you've got mountain stages, you've got these sprint stages. You can pick up points by crossing the line on those stages, or those areas of the stages first, and then you've got the end, like whoever's going fast overall for the yellow jersey, as normal. And so this managing your exhaustion over multiple games is brilliant. Like, normally I just play Flamme Rouge one and done. You're willing to push it towards the end because you're not going to get those cards really back in your deck, particularly during that last sprint. But now it matters. Like, now you're not necessarily just going to sit at the front and take those exhaustion cards, because there's only so many you can get rid of in between races. The point scoring, like I said, for the green jersey, the spotty jersey, is fun, and adds a depth to it. You're also having sort of your team times across the lines as well, all of which adds up to points at the end of the game. You've got unique riders now, so you've got specific decks where not everybody's the same. So you start with unique powers, and there's a few extra powers as well, and abilities that these riders will have. New tiles, there's like roundabouts and a couple of big tiles, this sort of square horseshoe to go in, and it just changes the game from being 45 minutes of fun to an all-day event, right? So or you can break it up. You can do it, multiple stages. It's got a good save system, and the full game is 21 stages. So I played an all-dayer for 7 stages. It would be 3 all-dayers to do the full tour. And I'd be up for it, but I'd probably want a break after 7 stages. And it was really good. Like, it just adds, if you like Flamme Rouge, this adds to it. If you don't like Flamme Rouge, it's probably not enough to win you over necessarily, because it is more. It's a big more package. But if you thought, there's not a huge amount of depth to this or strategy to this, by the time you're on stage 4 and competing for points and managing your exhaustion, you might reconsider your thoughts on that one. And it was just a really good time. So, highly recommend.
Yeah, that does sound like a good time. I'd definitely be keen to try that out.
Do it.
My next ones are both just small nods because they're tiny expansion. So my next one is Foundations of Rome, Roads of Fortune. Foundations of Rome is a really light, fun game in an enormous, silly box. They released Foundations of Metropolis, which is the same thing, but without all the pretty toys. And that's fun too. Roads of Fortune was not in... there's a few modular expansions in the box for Foundations of Rome, and as far as I'm aware, none of them are included in the Foundations of Metropolis. The Roads of Fortune is if you don't know anything about the game, basically it's sort of like a mashup of tile placement and area control. Right, you want to place out your tiles in the city. You want them to be next to the tiles that they like to be next to, but you can only actually place them in the city by buying deeds. And the deeds are in a communal marketplace, so people are poaching them, and they're looking at what you're looking at, and they're going to try to get the deed before you can. And you've got to manage your money as well. And the only real way to get more money is to skip a turn to earn some income, and the income is going to be based on some of the buildings that you built. So you don't want to. The turns are so fast. The skip a turn's fine. It's actually really interesting timing consideration. The problem is you don't want to skip a turn because someone's going to take that deed you want, right? And the marketplace is, of course, one of those things where if you take the one that just came out, you pay more, right? So you're hoping it'll slide down to somewhere where it's affordable, and then people won't poach it from you. But it's super tense and it's super competitive, and I mean, you don't have to play it that way, but you can.
Yeah.
And it's certainly sort of designed with that sort of competitive player interaction in mind. And Roads of Fortune simply adds, so the game is a square. It's a square grid that everyone's playing into this communal area. And Roads of Fortune just adds bonuses to the 4 edges. So now the people who are touching the edge the most, or with the most valuable buildings, will get some little Benny at the end of a round. And that's it. It's a tiny expansion. It doesn't really offer much. But it also, the original game came with these monuments, which had special rules, and they were a communal building that people could buy. That's another expansion thing that I don't think Metropolis has. But the Roads of Fortune also came with an alternate set of rules for those as well. So if you were sort of getting bored of seeing the same monuments over and over, which is wild because there's like 15 of them and you only play with like 3. But you could swap out all of the rules for the monuments for a different set of rules as well. So there's a reasonable amount of content in there, which is great because Foundations of Rome was a huge box, massive production, and the more replayability you can get into it, the better, because it's so obscenely overproduced for what it is. But it is a really great toy.
Takes up lots of shelf space. I've never played Foundations Rome or whatever the Metro one is.
Foundations of Metropolis. Yeah. I've not played Foundations of Metropolis. I've seen it, and it is the exact same game, but cardboard now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the extra expansions. And I'm not sure about the solo mode. Foundations of Rome has a solo mode. Roads of Fortune's compatible with it. I've never tried it. I mean, I don't want to overhype it, right? Because it's such a simple game.
Yeah.
But it's just a really sort of fun and quick and punchy game. And it's often a game that I get out and people play it and they're just like, oh, this is really simple. Oh, there's a little bit more to this. Oh, let's play it again. That kind of thing. And it's just really nice to have. And it's just a shame that the box is like bigger than the Anachrony Infinity box.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Because it's all giant plastic miniatures. It really is the strangest production. And I remember them saying, we're never going to produce a cardboard version during the campaign. And then 4 years later or something, they're like, come get the normal person one.
Yeah.
But I do think the expansions are nice. Like I think there's an expansion that gives you some asymmetrical player powers. I don't know if that's in Foundations of Metropolis, but the expansions are nice. They do not, even if you throw them all in, it's not overbearing. It's not too much. You can add them to flavor as you will. So I think it's always nice to have a little bit more. So that's why I called out Roads of Fortune.
Very cool. And then you said Decorum.
Yeah, Decorum was my last one. I like Decorum. It's a very weird and unique game. This is the game of passive-aggressively trying to arrange a house. It's functionally just a game where everyone's got these really obtuse objectives, and it's got communication restrictions. So you just simply cannot communicate your objectives. And in fact, the only thing you're allowed to say is, I like that, I hate that, I don't care. So you've got to work out what people's objectives are, because you'll do a thing, and then they'll go, I hate that. You're like, all right, they really don't like that. But it's like, did they not like that it was a lamp? Did they not like that it was blue? Did they not like that you put it in the kitchen? What didn't they like? I don't know. All I know is they hated it. And so it's a really fun experiment. Now, what I will call out is that I think it was quite clearly designed to be a 2-player game, because the 2-player sort of scenarios and escalation flows really nicely and escalates very well. The 3 and 4-player game is functionally impossible. We've never won it. It is so difficult. Every time we think we're doing well, we reveal everything at the end and we've lost again. Like, we will get to a point where everyone goes, I'm happy with this. Yeah, this is great. And then we reveal all of our objectives and something was wrong and we've lost. Yeah. And it's just like, so I think, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do not regret my time losing Decorum. But I will call out that it does feel, when we sit down to play it with 3 or 4 people, like it's going to be a massive struggle. But it's not long. The scenarios are not long. It's not long to set up. So it's fun. And it's just fun. It's just silly fun. If you like that sort of, I mean, I guess people talk about fun stress in games. I think this is fun frustration. If this fun frustration tickles you the wrong way, you're probably it's just going to be frustrating frustration. But I enjoy this sort of puzzle. I enjoy this little enigma. And it gets to this point in your head where you're like, I'm absolutely convinced that they are playing wrong. There is no way they're not playing wrong. They've misunderstood their objectives. They've misunderstood the cards. They've not read the card I've shown them. There's no way that they understand what's going on. And then later at the end when it's all revealed, you're like, oh, I was the problem. So it's a fun sort of little mental experiment. Decorum moving out is functionally the exact same thing, only now you're taking the stuff out of the house and putting it into boxes and a moving van, and you're trying to decide what to bubble wrap and stuff like that. So it's more scenarios. So I think this is really for people that played the 2-player version and actually finished it, and they were like, that was great, we could use more. I think for people who are playing the 3 and 4-player game, they've probably not beaten a scenario yet and don't need this.
I've only played it at 4 players. We did scenario 1. I think we did succeed.
No, you must have played wrong.
Yeah, maybe we played it wrong. I think it is on camera somewhere, so I'll try and get a copy.
Yeah, see if you can produce the evidence. I'm gonna accuse you of deep fakery.
Yeah.
I generated a game of Decorum where we actually won. But I've enjoyed Decorum. I think it's a strange sort of outlier. It's a sort of a unique little thing in my collection that I appreciate. So I thought I'd give a shout out to Moving Out as well.
Nice. Done. Expansion's done. So we're nearly getting towards the best games of the year. But like I say, 18 months in, I've played a lot more than that. 113 games I played from 2024. So I just want to mention a couple of didn't quite make the lists. Games that I maybe played a lot of or need to play more of and then liked. But and there are a lot here I could mention because I think 2024 is quite a good year for not middle of the road, but like, you know, games I'd want to play again. Mm-hmm. And so one game I want to give a shout out to is Agent Avenue. I have played this. I hadn't really played it before. Actually, before a couple of months ago, I don't think. And then it was on Board Game Arena, and I've now played it 145 times, maybe 150 times by the time you're seeing this. And I've had good games, but it's just not terribly serious. Like, I've won games on the first move, and I've just been like, this game's stupid. But it's fun. I don't think it ever evolves into the sort of the full promise of the back and forth of I'm going to play this and you're going to have a mind game of picking the wrong card and I'm going to get the other card and I'm going to beat you. But it's good. Like, I wouldn't have played it 145 times if I didn't think it was... Wow, that's not true. I played Pergola 70 times and I played Hanging Gardens 80 times. I mean, they're both fine, but they're not good. Anyway, so yes, this is a fun one. I don't know how you find it.
Yeah, we picked this up at S, and we were very graciously, we were very grateful to be gifted review copy from Nerd Lab Games, who we knew from collaborating on Mindbug. So, of course, Mindbug is Richard Garfield and Christian Cadal. Christian also designed Agent Avenue with Laura Cadal. I'm not going to guess their relationship because, you know, I could get it wrong. Yeah. But Agent Avenue, so they gave us a couple of review copies. I gave one to Chris, contributor to the show, and also I kept one myself, and we've had a great time. We like it. It's really fun. It is quick, it's light, it's punchy, it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's like 15 minutes. It's like, just get it. It's almost like an activity, right? Like, you're right. Like, it almost tricks you into thinking there's going to be a lot of like sort of back and forth and tight card play, but it's usually over by like round 4 or 5, if not sooner.
I have had games that have gone deep and been interesting, but similarly, a turn 1 win off a fairly random pick by your opponent is not.
I mean, it's a variation on. I
cut, you choose.
Yeah, what's the Elizabeth Hargrave one?
Tussy Mussy? No.
Tussie Mussy, yeah. So it's like a 2-player only Tussie Mussy where you're offering but it's spies, right? It's spies chasing each other around a neighborhood, and you offer up 2 cards, and one person picks one and sacks the other, and then you're trying to build little tableaus, and then the tableaus will have bennies if you collect similar cards and things like that, and also I think you can even lose if you get too many of the wrong one. So, it's fun. It's fun like that, and it's simple and light, and I don't have much more to say about it. Chris, I know, has been playing the expansion and really enjoyed that too.
I've not seen the expansion, Avenue M or something.
It's more cards.
No. All right with that. Another small game, in fact, most of these are small games, or smaller games, but a game I just want to highlight really is A Nice Cuppa. So it's a button shy game. I think it's a Scott Alms solo game. And it's about making a cup of tea. What a delight. So I got that with the expansions. The game is really simple. You shuffle up cards 1 through 8 along the top. Those are your cups of tea. And you shuffle up problem cards underneath them. On your turn, you flip one of those problems face up. Maybe you're worried about work. How does that translate into the game? That lets you, or you must, right, resolve every problem that's face up, left to right, and maybe it's move a pair of cards somewhere else along that line. And so if you remember numbers 1 through 8 you've shuffled up, you're trying to get the perfect 1 through 8 and all of your troubles to be gone, and then you just have a nice cuppa. And so you have to follow those, and either you flip to like exhausted, and then when you flip back the right way up you can get rid of a problem. And so you've got to make sure that where you're leaving your flipped cards matters, and where you move them to matters, because then you've got to flip over another problem. And it's just it's a fun little, I wouldn't even go so far to be a puzzle, kind of a puzzle, but you don't, until you flip over that last problem you might have solved it, and then this last problem gives you a problem you can't fix, so you're trying to get your high score there. But the perfect cuppa is 1 through 8 or 1 through 7. In the perfect order, everything face up and all your problems gone. And I've managed it a couple of times, but it's still fun to play. And the expansions just add little bits. Like you've got a tea pet, and that affects the 3 numbers that are directly below it. Or you've got it's in the month of August, and you have to, or fall, right? So autumn, and that changes the order you play cards in, and stuff like that. Or a bigger cup, you can play between 0 and 8 or 0 and 9 to do a bit more. So yeah, really nice, really fun. Just a solo game, but I do play it with my partner because we can just make decisions together.
Nice.
And then something on the other end of the spectrum from being a solo games to a party game, Flip 7, right? So it's not made the top games of the year, even though again I've played it loads. Broke it out, loads of groups. Like you just have it. You just have it, you play it.
Yeah. It's been in my bag ever since I got it.
Yeah. Everybody's always going to have a good time. I'd say the only downside is, despite I've got the massive book version, no scorecard in it. Right? So you've got to find, you got to go up to the bar and just, can I get a receipt and a pencil?
Use your phone.
Yeah,
everyone uses their phone.
Yeah.
Although it's nice to have it out where people can see it, And they're like, oh no, we can't let so and so score again.
Oh, the question's always, so who's winning? Right, well they're getting the -8.
Yeah. All right, I got the freeze card. Who's winning? Who's ahead?
Correct. So but the thing is, it can be replaced by a lot of other party games. It's not so good that it's the only party game you're ever going to play again. It just fulfills that niche, and it's a really good example of what it is.
Yeah, I think the strongest thing going for it actually is that I don't need to teach anyone anything. We can just sit down and start playing. I'm like, flip a card. And people are like, well, what am I looking for? I'm like, right now, you just need a card. Yeah. And then they flip it, and I'm like, all right, now flip a card, but don't get the same number, Yeah. And it's like, and I can tell them, like, if they flip a 1, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Just flip another card. And if they get a 12, I'm like, okay, maybe I should explain that. But it's so easy to teach, and it's so basic. I really, really like that. Have you played Flip 7 Vengeance?
Yep. Also, it's the same but different. I don't find that it goes on that much longer, even though there's a lot more negative stuff in there. I think it's still about the same length. It's slightly annoying that you can't combine them.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Why can't you combine them?
Because they're different sizes and different backs.
Oh, that's a bummer. I hadn't thought about doing it until you just mentioned it. I hadn't noticed that.
So there's a flip 4 in Vengeance versus the flip 3 in normal flip 7. It's like, well, maybe I want to make a version of the game where it's flip 4, but I don't have the swap card, But you can't do that. So
yeah, I would absolutely just take out all of the action cards and scoring cards and mash them into one of them for maximum chaos. That's always my modus operandi. But yeah, flip 7. It's also cheap.
Yeah, loads of people got them for free and Tacta for free. I don't know how Ospreys. I don't understand their marketing necessarily. Like, I guess giving them out to board gamers for free to hit mass market might be a strategy, because mass market's so much bigger than board gamers, but they gave away thousands and thousands.
Well, we talked about Flip 7 on podcast 30 as well, and I just want to fact check that it's not Osprey, is it?
OP. Sorry, the OP.
The OP, yeah. The OP, yeah. I thought it was the OP, and then I had to double check because they're honestly not a publisher I talk about very often.
Yeah, but they're Tacta and Flip 7, the OP, and I said their marketing strategy to just give away thousands of them. I feel like they could have sold them, but anyway.
It's so cheap to print. It must be.
Yeah.
This next one, you've not played enough, apparently.
Yeah. So going from an easy setup 20-minute game to the other end of the spectrum is SETI. I've just not played it enough. I think it's probably good. I've had a good time playing it, but I've not sat down and really worked out why I might like it or what it does.
What I like about it. Yeah, I've played SETI. I guess maybe I haven't played it more than you. I don't know how many times you've played it.
No, just a couple, yeah.
Yeah. So I've played SETI quite a few times because it's sort of become very popular with the Euro gamers in my orbit. See what I did there? Anyway,
I gotta go.
But unsubscribe. No, but I think Honourable mentions the right place for SETI because it's a game that I'm really happy to play. I do own. It is a review copy that I was given, so I'm very grateful to CG for giving me a review copy. I'm not necessarily sure I would have run out and bought it after playing it, though, and I think that's just because for me it's a little bit. I need a Euro to do something really exciting, and I tend to prefer Euros that have some kind of shared space or player interaction, which SETI doesn't really have. It's got the moving. It's got lots of competitive tracks, where obviously the victory point track, but there's other sort of, I call them tracks, but there's other areas in the game where you're competing with people around things. And it will depend on which aliens come out as well. And I think what's interesting, because I'm going to talk about Shackleton Base later and the modular companies in that, and you can set up it's so replayable because you can pick any 3 companies to set up, right? And you can get wildly different vibes based on which 3 companies you use. In SETI, you can't pick the aliens. They're hidden, right? So you can, if there's 2 you really like, if there's some you don't like, you can just take them out. But it still changes the probability. So you're like, what's going to come up later? But then again, I also find that the aliens are maybe not so consequential that it necessarily matters which ones you play with. Or I would be surprised if people had really strong feelings about one over the other, and maybe that's also a bit of a downside, that it would be the whole thing is about finding the aliens, and very often when you find the alien you're like, oh blip, there's another resource track to deal with, or like, oh, I can unlock some more of this like little resource or dealy bop that I need. So in some way, and you're also competing on those signal tracks as well. There's lots of tracks to compete on with other players. So it's a game that I really enjoy playing. I really like playing it. I like the multi-use cards. I like the sort of random orbital wrinkles that can upset sort of what you were planning because the resources are quite tight. So, I'm on board with all of that, but it just doesn't quite have that sort of je ne sais quoi that I need to make it a standout Euro.
Yeah, I could agree. I do need to play it a few more times, and I believe the expansion speeds things up a little bit.
Yes, I've not yet tried Space Agencies. I'm really keen to. I'll try to do that for a future episode.
All right, nice.
We talked about SETI on podcasts 15 and 17 if you're interested in hearing more.
And then one last quick one from me, and that is Quacks Duel, the 2-player version of Quacks of Quedlinburg, which is now just Quacks. And when I got this, I must have played it a dozen times in the first month and a half, 2 months, whatever. And then it's just never really come back out. It's good. Quacks is fine at 2. The Duel does do something different, but it's not so different that you need it. So it was good. It's fun. The actual elements it adds to the 2-player game are worth it for the 2-player game, but it's not any more fun than just a normal game. So I like fun, as much as you may disagree with that.
As much as it might appear otherwise.
Yeah. So it's still on my 2-player shelf. It has the possibility of going, unlike, say, Splendor Duel, which does just straight up replace Splendor. An expansion for that coming this year as well.
And we talked about Quacks of Quedlinburg Duel on episode 11.
Long time ago.
In the way back when it was new. I've got a couple more here. I've got Wondrous Creatures in my honorable mentions because I liked it. It's a solid tableau builder. I played a few actually sort of tableau builders that were, I'm not going to say, that were inspired by Terraforming Mars. Albeit not, I think, as closely as the one you talked about, Legends of Void. This Wondrous Creatures, I think, was my favorite. And it is got delightful pieces, a delightful production, which is what we've come to expect from Bad Comet, the publisher. And it's just a solid tableau builder. And I'm happy to play it. So shout out to Wondrous Creatures, which we discussed on podcasts 16 and 18.
Yep, so I played this BarryCon 2024. Everyone had a good time. We're all like, oh yeah, we should play this again. We've not gone back there.
Yeah, I found that we all played it, and then it took ages to come back out, and it was because someone hadn't played it before and was like, I would like to try this, you know? And we're like, oh yeah, let's get that back out. We played it one more time, then it went back in a box, and it hasn't come out again. And I mean, I think it is hard for games to sort of get like a lot of replay value. I don't think that this is, I can't put my finger on why it doesn't come out more.
Yeah.
Possibly it's just a competitive space. You know, it might be the genre. Tableau building sort of sits in a strange spot where it's quite overwhelming for new people, but like the people who are into it need something like way more complex to be engaged. I don't know. But I think Wondrous Creatures is nice. I think it's quite light. I think it's quite accessible. And I enjoy the moving around on the board and triggering little action spaces. We played War Story, Occupied France. This is a review copy I got from Osprey Games at Essen 2024. And this is a co-op narrative game set during the occupation of France in the Second World War. And it's great. We had a great time with it. It's not super complicated. It's sort of choose your own adventure with little bits of combat. It has little maps that you put out, but it's really like sort of, you know, there's a, you know, we think the enemies are coming from there and there, you know, where do you put your sniper? You know, and then you'll find out later that, you know, you should have known they were coming from over there, you dum-dum. So, you know, it's not a skirmish game by any stretch. It is sort of choose your own adventure and pick a thing, you know, but it's just fun. It was just fun. And you track sort of hit points and wounds. You've got a team of people. You pick who's going on the mission. Sometimes they die. And I enjoyed this. I think for its tiny box, it's three episodes and then you're done. An episode's about 45 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, depending. I think you'd have to be really into trying different routes. I think there's probably enough routes that if you wanted to replay it, you wouldn't find it onerous. But I also think like probably you'd want to replay it with someone who hadn't played it before. Okay. but then maybe you can't explore the other routes. I don't know. I think you'd have to be the person that's really interested in going back and trying the other options of the narrative adventure. So I'm not sure if it's replayable, really, but I do think it is worth the money. Yeah. If you like this sort of thing. I think it's a fun narrative game.
Cool.
Slay the Spire definitely belongs here on the honorable mention list. I like Slay the Spire, the board game. I like the video game a lot. I like the board game a lot because it's basically the same game. It's quite an expensive board game and it takes more time to set up, whereas the video game you could just play. So this is in honorable mentions because, of course, the question is, where is the value if I could just play the video game? And the value is literally directly correlated to how much value you get out of a physical thing as opposed to a screen, and then also the co-op, right? The value here is that it plays up to 4. And so you can play a co-op version of the game, which is quite fun. You can sort of help each other out, throw things at each other to give each other a hand, which, doesn't exist in the video game, which is wholly solo. And that's about it. So I think that while I like the Slay the Spire board game a lot, it's a really tough recommend because it's really expensive, and I actually don't think there's a huge amount of value there. I think probably it's still best. I don't know if I say it's best solo because the co-op version is actually very fun, but that's because it's just Slay the Spire with some friends. You know, I think it's very hard to justify spending this amount of money on a cooperative game that's still also very long. Like a session is probably an hour to 2. I'd say probably most of them are sitting around the 90-minute mark. And then that's one like level of the Spire, right? So each Spire is 3 levels until you get beyond level 3, but we won't get into spoilers. But so functionally, like, it's like, do you really want to commit to, what is up to 6 hours of that? Probably not in one sitting, right? But then you have to like save your decks and come back and remember what you're doing. So I'm just not sure if it's like, which also is a problem in the video game, by the way. I'll sit down and press continue, and then it's like, here are your cards, and I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? But it's but it's just expensive, and I think that's the core problem. So I think if you really, really like Slay the Spire, if you really wish you could sit down with a friend and play a board game version of that co-op, then this has got you sorted. If you're sort of the person that's being like, but what if it's a great co-op? It's like, yeah, but just get Leviathan Wilds.
Spoiler. And also, Slay the Spire 2 has 4-player co-op, so...
Does it?
Yeah.
What? I didn't even know that.
So you're now...
I played so much Slay the Spire 2, I didn't even notice it had co-op or multiplayer. I just assumed it didn't.
No, yeah, it's got 4-player co-op, so...
Does it really?
That's not even a selling point for the board game anymore.
Oh no, I'd say we should play it sometime, but you'd be so upset with how many mistakes I make.
I've actually not played Slay the Spire 2 yet. I should download it and give it a go if the demo's still up and about.
Yeah, I bought it in early access because I'm such a fiend, and I'm already on I'm already. No, I'm way behind everyone else, but I'm working my way through the ascensions with all the different characters. I do enjoy it, but I do tend to misplay in it. I get almost too, it's like, because it's too quick, it's so quick and easy to play cards. I'll play something and then I'll be like, oh, damn, like that was a mistake. If I'd done this other one, it would have been fine. What a dummy. Or I'll just forget like I've got some extra power that's in effect, and then something will trigger and I'll be like, oh shoot, I didn't mean for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't happen in the board game. You can't do that in the board game because you have to parse everything yourself. Yeah. So the board game is more chill in that respect. So there you go. Like, I guess you have to just really like the tactile nature of the board game. Or I guess be a real diehard for the one character that's not in Slay the Spire 2.
Okay. I've not seen the board game, so I don't know. Spoiler.
There's also an expansion coming for the board game, and to be fair, I'm not sure how much of that is from the video game. I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. I think the next one I'll leave here because this was Saltfjord. We talked about it a lot on the podcast. This is, fun middleweight Euro game. It is Santa Maria rethemed with a more lighthearted theme because it is a lighthearted dice placement game. We covered this a lot already in podcast 24, so if you want to hear a deep dive into Saltfjord, but I think it stands out as a sort of a fun, replayable game with a rather unique mechanism that I'm happy to go back to, albeit it hasn't come out as much as I would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, and it's hard to pinpoint why. Possibly just because I have to bring it to the table because I don't know anyone else that owns it. But it does go into, it sort of integrates all of the different parts of Santa Maria holistically in a way that is more congruous, and it's all the sort of the best bits codified. I think it's great, and I thought I'd give it a shout out because also I can't put it above the other one that we both agreed was the best light Euro of 2024.
Ooh, stay tuned for that. All right, very good, very nice. Right, we're nearly into the top games of the year. But just before we get there, I'm going to tell you what not to expect from me. Games that have made other people's top 10 of the year. They're good games, mostly. But they didn't make it the list for me. One of them is Lord of the Rings Duel, or Duel for Middle-earth, the retheming of Seven Wonders Duel. This is creeping up the Board Game Geek rankings. In fact, can I tell you where that is? I can tell you that it is 29th as we speak, and that keeps going up month on month. It's good, but I don't enjoy it as much as normal Seven Wonders Duel, so you'll hear more about it on podcast 26.
All we've really talked about is the Allies expansion, which if you want to get a hot take on, you can go back to the bonus episode I did with Chris preceding this one, which we discussed that at length and our differing experiences with it.
Very cool. Then another couple of bigger games. Huang. I enjoy Huang, but the reprint for Tigris and Euphrates is coming this year, and Huang will be getting punted in favour of 25th century's blinged out version of Tigris and Euphrates. So
this is 100% correct. I have Yellow and Yangtze, I have Huang, I have Fantasy Flight, Tigris and Euphrates. I will likely get rid of all of them and just get the new one because I love Tigris and Euphrates so much. And I don't know why Yellow and Yangtze and Huang don't gel right. And the funny thing is they're quicker to play, right? I say they don't gel right. They're fine. They're good games. I enjoy playing them. They are quicker to play than Tigris and Euphrates. They have slightly easier to parse conflict resolution. It's hard to identify why exactly they're different beyond the shape be different, but T&E just hits in a way that the others don't. Maybe because it's slightly longer, maybe because it's got a bit more back and forth, or you should develop a little bit more of a sense of who's winning or losing. I can't describe it, but I just really, really like T&E, and even though these are quicker, they're not quicker enough that I think I can justify having them in the same collection.
Yeah. Agreed. And then there was a couple of light games. Captain Flip, I put into this. Harmonies, which is going to make a lot of people's top 10 of the year. And Cascadia, Rolling Hills or Rolling River, same-ish game. Fine, but I don't find myself thinking about them at any point. Like Harmonies, I'm happy to play. I'll never suggest it. So it's just not a big one for me. And it's a light game that a lot of things can fill the same space for me. And then Unconscious Mind was one of the big ones that I played this year. Just kind of, it looks nice, but never struck a chord.
I've sort of moved along a lot of the other big Fantasia game from these designers, which was Endless Winter, the Paleo-Americans. I found that to be a slightly discordant arrangement of mini games, and it had too much downtime, and the competitive sort of card play deck building element that was the interesting part, and it didn't focus enough on that. It kind of lost focus on that as it went into the other things. I've played Unconscious Mind twice now, but only the core game, and I'm not sure if I don't like the core mechanism of this one. I actually prefer the Endless Winter one, but again, like it still feels like it's sort of diversifying into this range of sort of little things that I'm doing. I want to try it with all the expansions, but I feel like I'm only doing it now to be academic about reviewing it rather than because I really want to. Gorgeous production, amazing to look at. But I think it was kind of summed up when the person who suggested we play it again said to me, we should play this again because we bothered to learn how to play it in the first place. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty damning.
Yeah, it was fine the couple of times I played. I have no interest in going back to it.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's got some really, really gorgeous art and it's got a really interesting theme and it presents some of the ideas of the theme in interesting ways for a Euro game, that's focused on psychology, which, one could argue is kind of the antithesis of the logical Euro game elements. I enjoy the change out of cocaine for coffee. That's fun and amusing, but it's just not quite doing enough, Yeah,
and if you want to not substitute that, you should come along to one of Mike's board game nights.
We're all doing lines and going crazy. You guys want to play? You want to play Jungle Speed? We discussed Unconscious Mind on podcast 13.
Yep, and one last one, Mistborn, which is the sort of Mistborn universe. Is that what it's called? Mistborn universe? I forget. But Brandon Sanderson's series of books, one of his many series of books, one of his many 100 series of books, which is a deck builder. It just doesn't. It's fine. Like it just doesn't do enough different that is worth talking about. I don't know if you managed to get a game in, but it was.
No, I played the other deck builder you talked about, Unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we talked about Mistborn on podcast 24, and I still haven't played it, and I don't intend to.
Nah, not missing much. Expansion might do something for it, but we'll see.
We'll see.
That's it. That's everything up until the best games of the year. So put that timestamp in, Mike, and then people can just skip to this.
Just skip ahead to this part, yeah. It'll be the pictures on the thumbnail anyway. Or maybe I'll put a big mystery thing. I'll do like, who's that board game,
It's Charmander. It is the top games 2024. The Jingo.
This is the undisputable, uncritiquable,
this is right.
Definitive correct list.
And if you think differently, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're wrong and we hate
you. I'm sure that I'm not even right about this list.
I mean, to be fair, like even get in the top 10, so I'll present my games to you in 10 through 1. I think there's a lot of games that could have really been interchangeable in the sort of 10 through 7 position, certainly, just depending how I was feeling. Everything here is good, but maybe, if I come back to it in a few years, maybe it won't have lasted quite the same way as some other games, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, we could always do like a review of the game 2 years from now. Did we actually keep playing it?
Put it in the diary.
Like we like Wondrous Creatures, but things aren't looking good for it by that metric.
No. Never played again.
I mean, I hope I get to play it again.
All right. Well, as I say, I've given my games some arbitrary categorizations, but the order in which I present them are my 10 through 1.
And I'll preface this by saying that I've taken a more chaotic approach. I have not ranked these in the order in which I like them, other than the last one is my favorite, and I have no categories.
Okay, just good games for the year.
Right. These are my sort of standouts, games that I noticed that I thought were, these are games that I've played multiple times, that I'm excited to get out again, that I have no plans to remove from the collection anytime soon.
Makes
those
sense
are my criteria.
And same, I don't see me getting rid of these this year. But in 10, I'm going to present to you my best deduction game that doesn't fall into any other category. And that is the game of Temple Code. And so this is Banky's edition, designed by Johan Levitt, who also did Turing Machine and Chronologic. I've not had a chance to play Chronologic yet, but Turing Machine is very good. The artist on this one is Jean-Baptiste Renaud, who also did Shot and Totten, some King of Tokyo, and Via Magica. To imagine some of that art. So this is a category for me because I love deduction games. I've spoken about deduction games before, including this one back in podcast 38. And I'm not including any legacy games or limited play games in my best of the year again. But this is a fun... How would I describe this? This game is basically Mastermind, but with the twist and the cleverness is done that there's no Mastermind. So in Mastermind, it's like Wordle. If you've never played Mastermind, imagine Wordle with colours. But somebody's controlling the colours behind the screen. And this one, the game's doing it all. You have a card, and then on the back of the cards, there's things that give you information as to which colour is on your card. And so you're then competing with the other players to decide which of the cards from the middle you're taking to compare with your card. And then from there, you can say, okay, well, I've got a blue symbol, but it's in the wrong space. Or actually, you wouldn't even know that. You would know that one of your symbols is in the right space, and then you'd have to figure out which one it is. So this is fine. This is a good game, and I've had some good nights with it. But I would say 2024 was relatively light on these sort of pure deduction games, and this in particular is a very light deduction game. Some people have sort of bounced off it because it was a little bit too easy, and others have bounced off it because they don't like deduction games. So, but I've had a good time with this couple of nights throughout the years, and I usually win. And so people are not as keen to play it with me anymore. There's no power grid, but that might be the only reason I'd get rid of this. And that if people can't keep up with the deduction elements, because I just play deduction games all the time and they don't, then it eventually won't come back out. This scrapes in at my number 10. I presume you've not played this one.
No, I haven't had a chance to play Temple Code. I like Mastermind. I mean, Mastermind is such a ubiquitous game that it appears in other things. Like, we'll be playing a co-op game or we'll play something else and it'll be like, oh, this minigame's just Mastermind, but with whatever. So Mastermind, I think Mastermind's great. And I mean, albeit I would never pick it now as an actual board game to play because functionally one player sits and does nothing. Which is a bit of a bummer. We've got way better options now. So the idea of a sort of a game-controlled multiplayer Mastermind is very appealing. I think that sounds great.
That was in at 10. So now we'll come to a genre that is near and dear, but the best two-player game that doesn't also fall into another category. And that is The Architects of Amytis. We talked about this in podcast 22. I think we played a game on Board Game Arena.
We did.
And it is a purely two-player game designed or published by Le Bois Jeu. Never heard French, they've heard it said by a Scotsman. Designed by Jérémy Ducré, who did Daimyo, Rebirth of an Empire, and the quite recent Super, and Romantic. I've put Romantic, I think that's an autocorrect. Is it Roman Gallonier? It could be Romantic Gallonier. I feel like there was some sort of tabbing involved there with an autocomplete, but we will see. We designed Courtesans, which is another fun. I'm thinking actually play multiplayer, but I've only ever played it two-player game. The artist on this one is Agnes Rapoche, who has done Seven Wonders Dice, Nova Era. I've spoken about her a couple of times. I think she's going to still be... I think we're going to see a lot more from her in board games in the future. And this is a two-player only game. Like, it doesn't really fall into anything, right? I'd argue that some of my other games are better games either at 2 or for 2, but this is purely two players. So this is why it falls into here. And I bought it specifically for my two-player shelf, and I kicked out like Caesar Rome in 20 minutes and another couple of games that didn't maintain the interest. So that's kind of the level we're pitching at here. It's a tile drafting game where each tile has its own ability. That triggers when you put it into your 3x3 tableau, and you're drafting tiles from another 3x3 tableau where you're putting your workers out, and they become a tic-tac-toe game where completing tic-tac-toe unlocks your scoring opportunities and endgame objectives, whilst putting them on your play area tableau earns you objectives and points for completing things. So there's this multi-level decision. You can compare it to multi-use cards. Like, I need to be in the top left position for my tic-tac-toe game, but I also need a blue tile, which is only available in the bottom middle position, and I also need the amphitheatre to score all the markets that I have on my tableau, which is in the top right position, and that's the sort of decision space you're working with every time you're taking a tile, and whether it's worth more points to complete your tic-tac-toe to have the end game scoring, to take the blue tile to complete your personal objective, or to just get the points from the tile you're taking at the point you're putting it into your play area. And that's what makes it interesting, right? That's what makes it neat. The tiles have A and B sides. There's enough variety in there. The pattern building for your objectives can be rotated but not mirrored, as far as I remember. And it's just neat, right? There's decision spaces there that are beyond just any one of those elements, and so measuring up what's best for you, and also you want to be messing up with your opponent, and because it's only one other opponent, you're able to see what they're going for. You can just about parse what they've got on their board, and you can definitely see what they're going for with the tic-tac-toe element. And so is it worth it? Well, I'm not going to get a tic-tac-toe this time, but neither are you. And so, mutual assured destruction on that, or is it better advancing your board state? So there's these layers upon layers of decisions to be made, and it's all easily enough kept within your head, and still value calls. There's no right decisions at any one point, so that's what makes it.
Very good. Well, I did play this with you. We played it on BGA, so a lot of the tactile enjoyment is not present, but I enjoyed the puzzle well enough. I don't regret my time with it. So I think a sort of fun competitive tableau or sort of tile placement situation, and the tic-tac-toe thing's quite unique.
But not your best two-player game of the year.
Yeah, well, I've slotted one in here in an effort to try and come up with something that would fit into Barry's categories. So I apologize in advance for the totally uncoordinated nature of this. This is one you were going to talk about later, so I've just yoinked it. But my two-player game of the year was Compile Main 1. So this is designed by Michael Yang, who has only done Compile, with art by Keegan Moore, Nolan Nasser, and Alan Panikal. I think Keegan Moore is a sort of independent artist they brought in. I know that Nolan Nasser was the sort of official artist for Greater Than Games, now dissolved, RIP, very sad. I don't know, Alan Panikal has done a few other games as well. And this was published by Greater Than Games. Now it will be published, I think it's published by Synapses Games. I don't know, some other people have picked it up because Greater Than Games was shuttered by River Group before Compile 2 Main 2 came out, and that did come out. So it is back. This is a game of playing cards. It is playing cards, and it's battlefields. You're structurally, you're like AIs who are competing over compiling data. But realistically, you've got these three elements that you're trying to compile before the other person compiles their three. And you've got to sort of win on each front, right? It's like when you win the three battlefields, when you win, you get to compile your part of the data. When the other person wins, they compile their part. You need to compile all three of yours first. And whoever's first to do that wins. So it's sort of a race game. And there's all kinds of sort of little wrinkles, but the game itself comes with a series of sort of thematic sets of cards, which are themed around the game's different mechanisms. but each card, functionally, it's got like two things it does, right? It's got a big number on it. You want to have the most numbers on the battlefield when it compiles. And then also it's got an ability. And usually the better abilities are on, I think, lower number cards.
Yeah,
Generally, because, you know, on your turn, you're just playing a card or maybe flipping a card face up. You can play them face down as a 2. But it's all a game of sort of action efficiency because, of course, you're racing and, you know, it's very much sort of like chaining things into doing more things. And this is sort of a, I guess, it's not a bluffing element necessarily. It's like sort of hidden information.
Yep.
It's like people put things face down and it's like, why have you done that? What is that? What's going on here? So imperfect information and tight timing. I think I like everything about this game. What I like, I guess, the way I'd sort of describe it most is that it's, when it's at its best, it feels like you're playing like a sort of a competitive head-to-head constructed card game, you know, like Magic the Gathering or Netrunner or something like that, you know, but you didn't have to do any of the preliminary work of actually constructing decks, really, and there's no real established meta. Now, you can establish a meta as you play it, probably because each of the different sets of cards has a sort of a thematic element, and as you come to know those sets, you'll sort of have a better understanding about how they do, and there's probably a skill curve to the game where you become familiar with those sets. I'm not yet familiar enough with them. I do not understand how to make good pairs at the beginning. You pick 3, right? I don't know how to make a good set of 3. So I'm still very much shooting in the dark, and those are the worst games of it, where you shoot in the dark, you get a set of 3 that really doesn't work, or your opponent's got some hard counter or a really good combo in theirs that's like really working well against you. So that's why I say when it's at its best, it feels like a really good constructed competitive card game. When it's at its worst, you're getting absolutely curb stomped because your initial set of 3 was just not good. Or your opponent drafted some that happened to be better. Like I said, again, we're not at a meta yet where anyone's doing that deliberately, so it just sometimes happens. But you know what? It's so fast to play, and usually it's pretty apparent when you're not going to win. So, you know, you can. It's not against. You can concede and play again, or play it out if you just want to explore the cards. I've not had a bad time with it, despite the fact that that is something that happens from time to time.
Yep, agreed. I will talk about it a bit more when I come to it for card games. But played Compile 2 just weekend past, and just with the Compile 2 cards and the Ox 2 cards, and we drafted some nonsense decks where because it's not a constructed card game like Netrunner, like Magic, but you're getting that kind of feel. You swap cards between your deck and your opponent's deck, and you can play around with that, which wouldn't fly in a game where you're spending hundreds of pounds on your own decks necessarily. And yeah, it's really good. Compile 3 is coming next year, with a solo mode. Don't know if it'll be as much fun, but we will see.
Well, we also discussed Compile more in podcast 24 and podcast 26, if you're interested.
But you know what I say though, Mike? 2 players is 1 too many. So next up, we have my best solo game of the year that doesn't fit into any other category. And that game is Kinfire Delve, which is actually 3 boxes. And I forget the names of them. Bane, Glory's Grotto, Stockades, whatever, right? Doesn't matter. Kinfire Delve, it's a system, comes with 3 boxes, each standalone but also combinable. And this is published by Incredible Dreams Studio and designed by Kevin Wilson, who's done loads of things over the years, but Game of Thrones board game, Descent, Arkham Horror, all stuff. Time at FFG, and there are a number of artists, which I've just put several here because they all had Polish names that I would murder anyway. And there's too many. So I put this as a solo game, even though each box does support 2 players, because I think this is just objectively better at 1 than it is at 2 or more. I have played it a couple of times with 2 players, and it's just not, the decision space isn't so interesting that what your friend might think of doing adds anything to what you might do with it. So this was a true solo game. Each game comes with 2 complete character decks. It's a card game. They are interchangeable. You can use the heroes from one box with the baddies of another, and in it you're trying to get through a dungeon or a well. I've actually not really bothered with the lore. I'm not 100% sure what's going on, but basically you've got a central card which is all the enemy deck, and they come out sort of north, south, east, west, and you need to get to the end and defeat the boss without losing all your health. It's a mostly card game based game, but there are dice, so the power of some of your cards are affected by how many of the matching symbol or element that you can roll. And the cards themselves are multi-use. You can play them for the ability that's on the card. You can use them to power up some abilities on other cards if it matches the thing you're fighting. And refreshing your hand is not done automatically. It's not like you play out all your cards like a deck builder and then draw up every turn. Deciding when to do that, much like Compile actually, is a decision within the game. And the more you do it, the more injured you become, and then it gets harder to defeat the boss at the end. Each card in your hand can only deal with certain obstacles, whether that's an enemy, an actual obstacle, or a trap within the dungeon. Each dungeon comes with like a unique... If you manage to explore it, and it's just it's random, you can't really plan for it, but there's things you can find within the dungeon that will help you greatly if you manage to get the right combination of cards and defeat the right sort of enemies. And so I've played this a few times. I played each of the sets through with each of the characters at least, so that's quite a few games if nothing else. And I played it cooperatively a couple of times, and I managed to get to the end, a few times completely unscathed, only to get smashed by the boss. Like, I just never managed to get the cards coming out. And other times I'm just like, oh, I'm never going to win this, but I'll play it through, and then I get to the end and I beat the boss. It's like, yeah, what a great time. So it is a true solo game if you ask me. I think you can actually play up to 4 players. I've never bothered with that, because 2 players isn't any more fun than 1 player. And yeah, best solo game that doesn't fall into any other category.
Nice. Yeah, I would. I've never had a chance to try this one. I certainly am interested in Incredible Dreams Studio stuff.
So you not played any Kinfire Chronicles or?
No,
Kinfire
so I haven't
Council?
managed to get it. Yeah, I haven't got into the Kinfire series, although people generally rate them overall very positively. So I'd certainly be keen to try something.
Council was fine. Good even.
Council is the multiplayer one.
Yeah.
The political one.
Yeah.
And Chronicles is the cooperative legacy one. Yeah.
As far as I know, I've not played. But you don't play a lot of solo games, so got anything for us?
This one is arguably true solo, except it's not, because I play it 2-player. This is Star Trek Captain's Chair, which has been bumped up actually, because I do really like it. So I've played Imperium a few times, and this is a re-implementation of Imperium. But it's not listed on BGG as a re-implementation of Imperium. However, there is like a meta system entry for them. So this includes all of the Imperium games as well as Captain's Chair and the expansions, which are not available yet, but will be coming soon.
Hold up. Captain's Chair is listed as a 2025 release on here.
Wait a minute.
Unless you had access to a preview copy.
I think I might have had an early access copy, because my first play of... Now, to be fair, my first play of this is listed December 2024.
Okay.
And I think that's because we played it on the charity stream, and it was Mark Dainty's review preview copy.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, so that's why this has crept into my list, because although actually, but the list shouldn't be based on plays. I'm now just cross-checking my list to make sure that the filter's not games that no, because all of the other games that I've listed are 2024, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll allow it.
Okay, so I think the other thing is, like, WizKids sucks on release dates. I suspect that Captain's Chair was probably originally designated as a 2024 release, and it's possible that's been updated. But this is the reviewer's conundrum. I do believe it was come out shortly after, So it would have been early 2025. I'll tell you what, I'll keep it real brief and then we'll move on. Because you're right. I think because the expansions were supposed to be out like in January, and even the designer was like, "Yeah, they'll be out in January." Anyway, it's still not here. I mean, reviewers have them already, so they do exist. So I think this is largely WizKids and shipping issues.
Fair.
Anyway, look, we already talked about this on podcast 18 anyway. It is, I think if you've played David Xerxes and Nigel Buckle before, which is to say the Imperium stuff or Voidfall, you've got sort of an idea of what you're getting into anyway, which is to say intricate systems with multiple moving parts that are sort of working together and you're trying to navigate this. And this is the Star Trek one. And Barry, you've said, so you know, this is open play marketplaces. You've got a set number of actions, your deck building, your tableau building, you're buying cards out of this marketplace. They're coming into your situation. The game is also throwing bad cards into the situation, and you're trying to negotiate all of that. It's only one player or head-to-head, and that's it. Arguably, the system works at higher player counts because Imperium had higher player counts, but it didn't work because the downtime was so bad. It was borderline unplayable. Like it was, you know, it was so bad that I'm like, why would I ever pick this? You know, each player I add is just making this worse. Mm-hmm. And you can make the argument like, but aren't you having a nice social time just hanging out with your friends? It's like, yeah, of course. But we can also do that while playing a game that makes the most of the player count, right? And, you know, that's so this was, I think, this presents the system in its most favorable light by limiting players to one or two. I've only played this at 2. I haven't tried it solo. But I think it would still be good because the system is complex and interesting enough to be compelling. Where I think Imperium kind of let down was actually a sort of a lack of complexity. Mm-hmm. The interworking parts of Imperium were overly complex, while the actual cards and actions you were playing and doing were not complex enough to be interesting. Does that make sense?
Yes, I know what you're saying. At least I have played.
The complexity was in the system going on around you rather than in the things that you were doing and the cards that you were playing.
Yeah.
And this has fixed that problem by making the cards more complex and multi-use and giving them a lot more different applications. So whenever you're doing things with the cards, you're really thinking about what different things do I want to be doing with these cards. Now, this does mean there's more complexity. You know, you've got these crew members that can do things when you play them from hand, but you can also get them onto a spaceship. You can put them elsewhere. You know, there's things about moving all of these different positions around, and it requires some amount of setting up, you know, and planning. So you've always got much more interesting decisions to be making. It also throws in these planets, which are very powerful that you want to get into your tableau, but you have to compete with people. It's like a little area control thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it works in solo mode. I assume it's kind of roughly the same thing with the AI bot putting out control on the planets, but it's a nice little player interaction that doesn't exist in Imperium. There are elements of the 2-player game that feel a bit like parallel play, and sometimes I would watch Mark do what Mark is doing and just be like, I don't follow at all what's happening here, but it's fine. Because it is actually, like, Imperium was a 3.6. This is a 4, right? So it's sort of it's a bit of a step up. I actually think it could even feel a bit heavier than a 4 when I look at sort of what sits around that mark. Just because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of card interactions and text on cards as well. But I've found it compelling, and when you sort of pull off the combos or pull off the thing that you want to do and you've sort of managed it effectively, it's just really good.
Nice. I've still not given this a try. I did have Imperium and Horizons. Didn't have Horizons the third one. I can't remember. I had 2 of them. Classics and Legends.
Yes, those are the original 2.
Didn't have Horizons, and I just played it 4-player. No, thank you. Yeah. Playing it solo was not fun to manage, so I've stayed away from this so far. Will it make my best games of 2025? We'll find out. It's
Schrodinger's game. It exists in multiple places. Well, we're always grateful to be able to play things in advance, albeit, doesn't happen too often. Because even when I get things in advance, I'm usually too slow to getting them on the camera.
Yeah. All right, very good. Yeah, definitely give that a try. But going from no players to more players. So on their best party game here, I have put The Gang. This is a game by Cosmos, designed by John Cooper and Corey Heath, who also did Zendo, but unfortunately he passed in 2024. But he is still listed for the deluxe version coming out this year. The artist is studio artist. No individuals were listed for this one. But The Gang is, whilst only going up to 6 players, is listed as a party game on Board Game Geek, and there is the 10-player deluxe expansion. In fact, the 10-player non-deluxe expansion is also coming this year, and so definitely will go up to those sort of party numbers for those that enjoy this. So this is a poker-adjacent game where players have to calculate the strength of their hand in relation to the other players at the table. It's cooperative. The story around it is that you are casino robbers breaking through the security system and have to perform your part perfectly and be in total sync with the other players in order to steal the gold from the vault. It doesn't require that you know poker, but it does use the poker hand system as the resolution mechanism. If you have a flush, you are better than somebody that has a pair, for example. And so by the end of the 4 rounds, which is your hole cards, the flop, the turn, and the river, you must have calculated where you are. And it's a limited communication game where the only communication you can really give people is where you think you are in the hand, first, second, third, fourth, or so on. And this is done by putting a chip in the middle, numbered 1 through however many players, and by taking the chip that says this is where I am in the hand. So if you've got a pair of pocket aces to begin with, those chips come out, you're grabbing at light speed the number 1. You're like, nobody's got a better hand than me. This is mine. But then on the flop comes the 4, 5, 6 of hearts, and you've got, the 2 black aces. Suddenly, your hand's not looking quite so good. So now you're like, well, let's see what other people do before I take the next chip. And so by doing this, the amount of time spent looking at other players, changing your mind from where you are in terms of the strength of the hand, from the arguing back and forth. One player's got a pair of kings, one player's got a pair of aces. The kings grabs the number 1 chip. The aces is like, takes it away from the kings player. King's like, I've got a pair of kings, you can't be beating me. Takes the 1 chip back, and then eventually they'll settle. And it might be that the kings player is taking the 1 in the end, and the guy with aces is like, you're wrong. Yeah, but I just have to let it go. And until we get to the end, at which case you must have the right order. The final set of chips you grab must be correct. So I am enjoying this poker as a resolution mechanism that's coming into board games at the moment. They've got Deco, which is sort of bilateral, the way Slay the Spire is to Slay the Spire. Hell of a Deal, All In Predictions, Ace of Spades, now that it's been redone with the art. And this is also sort of a deduction game. It's not really a deduction game, more of a party game. And I'll definitely be getting the 10-player deluxe edition as soon as it's out, because we've had a great time with this. Everybody I've taught it to has had a good time and been able to figure it out. You don't need to know poker. That's the key thing with it. You just need to kind of understand the strength of the hands, and there are player aids for it. And it's not just that game, by the way. There's other things to the game where it makes it harder or easier to communicate. Or you might get a tip where one player, you mess up robbing one of the bank vaults, you have to rob 3 of them. So the next time you get a gadget that lets you show another player one of your cards. Right, so it becomes easier. When the kings and the aces player are both grabbing that 1, you'll be like, hold on, I'm going to use this. I've got aces, So it's good.
Yep, that sounds great. I really want to give this a try.
Not played it.
I'm surprised. Yeah, and actually there is a sort of a contingent of party game players at one of the clubs I go to. And I'm surprised I haven't seen this on the table.
It's quick, easy. Maybe by the time it goes up to 10 players, that's when they'll
Finally
bust
get it out. Yeah. Well, I'll have to try this. I've got a copy of Excalibur here as well, so maybe I'll do a party game thing. That'd be nice.
And yeah, anyway, we talk a little bit about the gang in podcast 35.
I'll tell you what else we talk about in podcast 35.
Tell me more.
Railways of the Lost Atlas. Could this be less like the gang? No, it could not be less like the gang. This is the 18xx game that I discussed in 2024 on podcast 35, which feels later, actually. Maybe it will, I don't know. This says it was 2024, so I'm just going to go with it, but I've started to doubt all of my picks. This is designed by Kevin Delger and Jacob Sach. The artist is Studio Delger, which we looked this up. It's like a marketing studio run by them, but it does ads for marketing campaigns. It's also well suited to doing the sort of utilitarian art of an 18xx. This is published by Asterisk Games originally as the company. It's also listed under 4 games on BGG, which might be a localization or something. And do you like 18xx? Because this is 18xx. This is very clearly an 18xx game designed by people who play a lot of them and wanted to design one that had some amount of modularity and replayability. So what it doesn't have that a lot of 18xx's have is a sort of a fixed map, a fixed time period, historically accurate trains and companies, and instead it's got a modular board with tiles that you set up. There's you can do some randomization, or you can pick like sort of a scenario. It's got modular companies, so and this is sort of a unique innovation to this game, I suppose, in some ways, which is that the companies are made up of different parts, and so, well, what happens is when you first float a company, which means you bring it into the game to make it an actual company. If you don't know anything about 18xx, I'm going to struggle to explain this precisely, but players will float companies, which means bring them into the game. Then other players will buy shares. Your company might get taken away from you if people buy more shares than you. Whoever has the most shares controls it. You want to be in control of the most profitable companies. Players who control shares in the company might help you to make it more profitable, or might try to tank it based on the board state. That's kind of the game, right? And usually they climax to this situation where largely all the routes are built, all the trains are out. You can't do much more than watch the companies operate and make money or collapse, and then somebody has the most money at the end and wins. Each train company in this game has its own unique power, and at later stages of the game, players can combine the companies. So they're like, oh, our 2 companies are doing really well, or they're not doing very well. Now, sometimes the company might be doing really badly and you want to try to combine it with someone else, so they're stuck with it. Other times, the 2 powers might combo together in a way that's really going to help the company, and you're trying to combine them to get this massive leg up. And so it just does things that are really interesting. And for me, I think that now I'm no 18xx expert. I think that 18xx people, I played it with 18xx people, they really liked it. I think 18xx people will really like it. I also think if you're not that into 18xx, now I don't know if this is not a good entry point from terms of accessibility, right? No. Because it is got more complexity in some aspects. What I will say, and I don't know enough about the genre to tell you where a good entry point is. A lot of people will say 1835. Sure, but they're all equally cutthroat, and if you're going in with people who've played before, you're just as likely to spend sections of the game sitting out with nothing to do because all your companies would be taken away, and that just is part of this genre. And I don't know if you can get around that. Maybe there are gentler ones. Maybe there isn't, because that's not a valuable lesson to learn, because that's how most of the games are. And this is no exception. It's heavier in terms of some of the rules, some of the modularity, some of the unique powers make it heavier. But I also think in a way it's more accessible because it's a bit more exciting, and it feels like it's got a little bit more possibility in it, right? It also doesn't feel as parsable because of the randomized elements of it. players aren't going to have mathed out all of the strategies of the game. You know, you can't look up, the fixed strategies for this one, whereas a lot of 18xx's have quite established strategies that experienced players will be aware of and then play around. So either leading into those or countering them based on the table and who's at the table. And that, I think, is one of the hardest things to penetrate with 18xx, is the people who know those specific ones really, really well. So for me, that's one of the things that I think is actually more accessible about it, is this does upset that ability to sort of know the strategies in advance. Now, if that is something you really like about 18xx, this might not be something that gels well with you, but for me, that's a big appealant factor. So I'm really a big fan of this, and after playing it a few times, I went away and I backed the new expansion, which adds more companies.
Yeah, I mean, I have played a couple of 18xx's and some, what I would say, 18x light style games. I think Iberian Rails, Mini Express, they're the same functional. They've got stocks, you've got routes, but it's not the same kind of game. Like Railways of the World still isn't an 18xx, right?
No, well, Railways of the World is I would, because it doesn't have stocks and shares.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even put it in the same category. And the thing about 18xx, for me, the defining feature is the fact that if people take away your companies because you're doing too well, you can find yourself halfway through the game with nothing and wondering whether you can even make money again, because if you float a company now, will you be able to compete? Will anyone buy into it? If they do buy into it, are they just going to take it away again? So I think, I think that's the hardest selling part of the genre, really, is the fact that you can just kind of get stuck in this position where there's not much you can do and the game is maybe over for you. Now, I've seen good players come back from that position and float something profitable and do really well. But I've also seen players get stuck in that position as well. Yeah. So, I don't think that's modeled in any of the sort of the games that sort of try to replicate elements of this, but in a lighter way, I struggle to think personally of a train game that is a lighter version of this. Personally,
you never. If you go lighter, you're missing something. So it's never going to be a. You can't go lighter and still be the same game.
The quintessential element is that you're down for 6 to 8 hours. Now, Railways of the Lost Atlas does come with different map sizes that are different lengths. So if you want to play the short game, you can. I think we've played the medium games. It might have been the long games we played. They were very long, the ones we played. But there is different length options as well, based on how long you want to play.
Fair enough. Yep, I've backed this as well. Basically, off the back of yours, I do enjoy train games, like 18xx's well enough. This looks... If you've never seen an 18xx, you'll look at this and you'll go, that is ugly. But it's quite good looking for an 18xx.
It is. It's got to be a good marriage between readable and sort of... Yeah, you can effectively eyeball the board and understand all the information. Yeah. There's a lot of information, but without, looking awful. So I think they've done a really nice job with the art on this one, especially for a company that hasn't done a board game before. Yeah.
Well, looking forward to this arriving with the expansion when it does, and hopefully get it to the table. Well, going from sort of heavy games to my next pick, which is Best Light Euro, and that game is Rebirth. This is published by Mighty Boards and designed by the mighty Reiner Knizia. The artists on this one are Anne Mikado Rozbilska and Vesna Rediusik, who also did Kinfire Delph. One of the people I didn't mention. And this is a very light game. Draw a tile, put a tile on the board, get some points. That's it. It's a whole game. Go play it. No.
Do go play it, but there's more.
Yes, that is fundamentally the rules, right? You've got a bag full of, or you've got a bunch of face down tokens, full of different tiles, and those tiles are farms, electricity. What else is in there?
Yeah, towns, farms, and electric. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've only got 3 different types of tiles, but some have, the towns have.
The towns have
values.
different varieties.
Yeah.
Everything else is consistent.
And then you're going to take that tile, put it on the board, and you're trying to connect areas up. The larger your electricity connection, the more points you get. The larger your fields, the more points you get. The more people you have in towns, the more points you get. And it's super simple. That's enough to be getting on with. As you play on the Scotland side, which is obviously the best side to play on, you'll put tokens next to cathedrals. Cathedrals will give you some end-game scoring objectives or just bonuses. You'll be competing for area control around the castles, but there's only a limited number of spaces, so you want to have the most surrounding those castles for the extra points. And that's it. Like, the game is a simple teach. It's easy to learn. It's quick to play. The conflicts happen through player agency. It's your choice when to try and block somebody versus trying to build up your areas to compete. It's super replayable. You're constantly watching what other players are doing. Turns are fast. Like you won't have a huge amount of downtime, even at 4 players between your go and the next player's go. But you're always watching what they're doing because you want to put your you want to complete a town with your 4, which is going to beat out their 3, and so you're just hoping that somebody doesn't go there before you. You're wanting to get the space next to the cathedral by putting down your electricity to get you 5 points for your 5 deep electricity farm, but you just hope that nobody's going there before you. So you're constantly watching what they're up to. You're thinking about what they might have pulled. It looks great. The maps are nice. The parts are pleasant pastel, regardless of which version you've got, whether it's the nice crowdfunded version or whether it's just the cardboard version. And on one side of the board Scotland, one side of the board's Ireland, so there you go. All your Celtic bases are covered.
This is a game where the play, the moment-to-moment play is so fast, and the game ends when you run out of tiles, right? You've placed all of them. So we have gotten to the end of a game and someone's got an extra tile because the play is so fast, they weren't paying attention and they just got missed, and I really like that about it. It's just really fast. It's really punchy. You care about everything. Inevitably, someone's got like a million size contiguous area, and you're like, any other player should have, or we should have all done something about that. And we didn't. We've only got ourselves to blame. So you feel like you've got agency. Every placement matters. It's super quick. It's easy to teach. There is only one fault that I can think of with this game. Which is, can you think of it?
Well,
I think I brought this up when we discussed it.
I'm not sure. The common complaints, the tiles you take out at the start are random. And so if you lose your 4 house and somebody else doesn't lose any of their houses or loses their 1 house, the 4 house is objectively better than the 1 house.
Yeah, but the towns never score as high as a contiguous area. Like if you build a big farm set, that 1 farm tile you've got over the people with other houses is worth more.
Yes. Yeah.
So no, it's not the random tiles. It was the objective cards. There is specifically some objective cards that give you a little bit of points for having many medium-sized areas.
Yeah.
And they are just functionally less good. I think the biggest flaw with them is they're a pitfall for new players because you will never get as many points from having like 3 middle-sized areas as you would from just building 1 big contiguous area. So the only time they're worth scoring is if you couldn't build the big area because everyone locked you out. So it's like a sort of a pity prize for people that couldn't build a big area. Whereas the other objective cards are all just more points for doing things that are already winning. So those objective cards are just not good. And I don't know how they crept into the game. They should have put in some better objectives. if they release anything more for this game, I would like more maps, and I would like a different set of objectives, or just a few to swap out.
Yeah,
But those are my minor complaints. The game is almost perfect.
The ones that just give you a straight 3 points as well, it's like, nah, like I could have been working towards something for twice that many points, you know?
Yeah.
And it does make a difference. But yeah, we spoke about this, I think, as a preview in podcast 17, and then after having played it in 26. It's good.
It's very good.
Stepping up our complexity a little, we have our best mid-weight Euro. And this one is Endeavour Deep Sea, so published by Grand Gamers Guild, designed by Carol. Asking a Scotsman to say the word Carol. Carol. It's
Carl.
The wrote it. Carol. No, so it's Carl. Imagine if I was in Walking Dead. Carl. Cardo Visser and Jarrett Gray, who both designed Endeavour Age of Sail. The artists on this one, Fahid Al-Rajil, Josh Capel, and Marusa Gorjup. And this could have been a contender for solo or in co-op as well. It contains solo and co-op games, but I've played it. I've not actually played co-op. I've played solo, and the competition element of this game is kind of what is another level. The solo game's fine, but the competition, even though it's light competition, is what makes this game stand out. You know, it's incredibly pleasant. Everybody has a good time, even when you're losing. Even when you've got no chance of winning from super early on, everybody's just having a really nice time. And they don't care if they win or they're losing. They're happy moving their little dubbers about, and they're happy going into look at the whales, and they're happy doing a bit of a dive and moving along the little tracks and just having a, a really nice time. So the mechanisms are pretty much straight out of Endeavour Age of Sail. Start of round, you're going to get a new tile. That tile has an action on it, but it's your choice. It's going to get you some rewards to go up tracks as well. You're going to get a dobber. You're going to place a dobber, and that's going to let you move further along those tracks, which will unlock bigger tiles and bigger actions and more things you can do, more dobbers and more places to put dobbers. And then you're going to try and reclaim those dobbers because the actions on your tiles don't automatically refresh. You need to pick them back up, but that's another track to explore. And then you're going to just keep doing that in loops. You're going to be spending your extra dobbers to put your dobbers on the board, and those dobbers on the board are going to let you get more resources. They're going to let you get points. They're going to let you get one-time actions that you're going to have to put other dobbers on. It's a game of dobbers. It's like a Game of Thrones, but a little different.
Yeah, you've sort of got competing logistics chains, right? Because you're trying to improve your deep sea diving company, which means more staff, more actions, more technology. But you're also trying to improve your situation on the board, which is, claiming the little area control bits, getting to the tiles first, progressing these things in a way that suits you and gets you whatever you need for that other thing. And it's hard to describe all of the details because the game is scenario based and it changes from game to game. There are 10 scenarios, I think.
Yeah.
And so they've all got slight variations, although the core action system's the same. But it's tight timing. Everything is tight timing. You're always looking at your logistics, and you're always looking at everyone else's logistics and going, "Oh shoot, that's where I really need to be. Are they going to be able to beat me to it? Not sure." And then you're like, "Oh, they definitely can. I hope they haven't seen how they can."
Yeah.
And then they go off and do something completely unexpected, and you're like, okay, great. And they're like, haha, I'm exploring something new or whatever I'm doing. They'll never see this coming. So you're right. Everyone has a good time. Nothing feels useless. It is entirely pleasant, and it's a compelling sort of puzzle that gets you locked into it. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, this compared to the original Age of Sail lacks any kind of direct conflict. Everything's indirect. A race to get the research, a race to do the conservation. It's just much more pleasant, right? There's no direct attacks. It's fun to just do stuff, but it does reward planning. So where you're saying, the tightness of the game comes from actually you get 6 turns, and your first turns really just do one thing, maybe 2 things if you're lucky. And so that's actually really my only complaint about the game, is that those early rounds are a little lacking in meaning. They could do with being just a bit earlier. And the game can end before you get going at times, particularly at lower player counts. Higher player counts, you might get to depth 5 and you might get to the full breadth of the map. At 3 player even, you're getting to maybe depth. You might get to depth 5, but 1 tile, 2 tiles if it's a heavy exploration one maybe. But you don't get to see all those parts of the game and what's out there necessarily at the lower player counts. But you could, right? I mean, you could go heavy explore. It depends on the scenario as well. So if it was a bit more, if you got a bit more to start with, to do a little bit more in turn 1 and 2 often, because if you can't get your dobbers back off and you don't unlock the actions again, or you don't earn extra dobbers, you can't do some actions because you need one to put on the board. It's just too tight. There is an engine there. You never really get to run it, but if you did get to run it for like another turn, it'd be too much. There'd be too many things going on. Like often you're filling up that projects board, particularly even at like 2-3 players, you're filling up that projects board, and then suddenly all you can do is just get a point every time you do something, and it just becomes everybody gets a point. You get a point. You get a point. And so it would lose it.
Well, that was an observation we had about Thesaurus. Thesaurus, which was that it did feel like it went on around too long, and we speculated that was because of the advanced gameplay mode with the angry meeples, which we haven't tried yet. But I'd rather it end a turn early than a turn late.
Yes. Like leave them wanting more. Anyway, we talk about Endeavour in podcast 19 and podcast 29.
There we go. And so from the depths of the ocean to deep space, my next pick is probably a heavyweight Euro. I say that. I guess I would have said it's medium weight. It is quite flexible. It's Shackleton base. This is designed by Fabio Lopiano and Nestor Mangone. The artist is David Sitbon, and the publisher is Sorry We Are French. And this is a game that I didn't think I would like as much as I do, because generally speaking, Nestor Mangone's Euros are too dry for me, and Fabio Lopiano's Euros, albeit I do generally enjoy them, are not games that I'm super keen on. So, a strange pairing, but I've played this quite a few times, and I really, really, really like it. It is a crunchy puzzle, and so it's hard to sort of clarify the weight simply because there is 2 major elements to this game, right? Like functionally, we are corporations exploring the moon and trying to make money from the moon, we're colonizing the moon, I guess, is the main theme. We're colonizing it.
The moon's South Pole.
The moon's South Pole. There we go. And some of us have good intentions and some of us have bad intentions. But what we are actually is the nations of the world, I think. And there are 3 corporations who are getting involved in this as well. And then we can interact with those 3 corporations as much or as little as we want. And so the game's complexity, like there's sort of the core rules that exist about colonizing the moon. And then each of the 3 corporations adds additional wrinkles, and one corporation is all about plants and adds this whole plant system where you're building greenhouses and getting money from having greenhouses in your areas of the Shackleton base. There is a planet, one that introduces comets that are going to be hitting the moon, and now we have to invest in like defensive systems, and one of them is all about just harvesting resources from the moon and sending them back to Earth. And now we're doing sort of all this. We've got a lot less resources because if we want to interact with that company, we have to send all of our resources off to Earth, but then we get corporate rewards from them. And which 3 corporations you pick? I'm going to say there are 6. There could be 7. Oh, 7?
Yeah, we'll discuss this. 3 times 7, there's 35 possible combinations.
There we go. Well remembered. So they vary in complexity, right? And so you can pick the 3 quite straightforward ones, or you can pick the 3 complex ones based on your taste. The game itself is still definitely on the heavier side of middleweight Euro, if it's middleweight.
3.9.
Yeah, it's really pushing
Close
up
to
there.
heavy, yeah.
Yeah. But I think also it will be directly related to the corporations. Like, I think the easiest thing to miss in this game really is that the actual moon stuff itself, how you manage the moon, how you manage your worker placement, all of those things, really compelling and feels like a whole game on its own. But actually, you're not going to do well unless you look at the companies and build a strategy around interacting with one or more companies. Because each company comes with a set of two decks of cards called project cards. I mean, I say they're two decks. I think it's just two face-up markets. Basically, the project cards for the companies is where all of the efficiency lies. And so you have to get involved in those project cards. And if you ignore them, you will lose. But when you get involved with those cards, when you start planning out the things on the moon, so yeah, it's almost like you have to get your head around one game and then start trying to find the value in these other things that are happening, you know? And that's a part of the complexity, I imagine. But I think it's just the project cards themselves. You probably won't see all of a company's project cards in a game unless everyone's going for the same company. And even then, maybe. But also, that's unlikely to happen anyway. There's just so much replayability. The changing in and out the companies, all the project cards, it's hard to see them all. There's now an expansion, which I haven't even looked at because there's just so much in the box already. But it's just the shared space on the moon is what really makes this exciting for me. You know, you're getting rewards based on sort of area control in different parts of the moon, and you're competing with people for sort of first come first served objectives on each company. So there's a lot of really tight timing and tight controls. There's a lot of the worker placement elements and worker drafting. Oh, there's 3 different workers. You can use them inefficiently if you want to try to get ahead on something, or you can try to use them efficiently, but then someone maybe beats you to something. It's just all of the sort of the nice tight timing things that sort of make me engage with a puzzle. And then it's got enough tactical sort of changing elements to it, the rotating project cards that are so key. It's just great. I really, really like Shackleton Base, and I think given how many different variations of combinations are in the box, I think there's a lot of replayability there. And so I think it's a really good value for money proposition. And the only thing I'd say about it is that it is peak hobby, right? Like
Okay,
you're not introing anyone with this. This is for people who have already played a lot of board games. Or at least a reasonable amount. I think with people who are very, very quick, you can get this done on a weeknight, but it's borderline, right? If anyone's suffering from AP, then you're probably not getting this done.
fair. Like, I've not played it. I had a quick look at what's in the expansion there. There's another 3 companies and another space agency. India get involved in the space race. Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, you're saying already, I mentioned there, 35 combinations, adding in another 3 companies takes it to 120. So if you thought there was enough variation from just the ones in the box, you'll never run out with the expansion. Yeah, it sounds interesting. I'd definitely give it a go. But I don't know anybody who's got it. So
I think you'd probably quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
It feels like it sits in a realm of games you'd quite enjoy. Unless there's something about the player interaction that rubs you the wrong way, I don't know. Because it's not interaction, it's indirect interaction. Well, except for the area control bit on the moon. But again, like that can be inadvertent as well, because sometimes you just need to go a place. I like that Shackleton Base summarizes all the corporations. That's really important. It could have been a problem if it didn't tell you how they play and what their complexity rating is, but it does, and that's a big win. But yeah, I'm always happy to play Shackleton Base. I think it's a solid one.
All right, another top game. Moving into, is this the top 5 now? We've already been in the top 5. Yeah, this might be number 4, I think.
I didn't even count how many I have.
No, I don't know. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, this is top 4. So this doesn't really have a category, but I don't have a heavy Euro, right? Unconscious Mind didn't do it for me. SETI's don't know yet. Inventions, I'm getting rid of. Civolution didn't do it for me. So none of those games are lasting for me. So this is the best other game, but also it'd be my number 4 regardless. And that game is Castle Combo. It's published by Catch Up Games, designed by Gregory Gerard and Matthew Rossell, who both designed Zenith, which, well, same with a shout for next year. And the artist on this one is Stefan Escapa. And the art does a lot of the work on this one, so definitely worth checking out to see if you like it. So this is a game that I have played well over 100 times, both in real life and on Board Game Arena, combined. Not each. And I never get fed up of it. It is a game where you're drafting from 2 markets based on the location of a messenger, either from the village or from the castle, which really just 2 different classes of cards. You've got the nobles and you've got is the way it works, but the village and the castle. And then you pay for one of those cards with the money that you have, place it into your 3x3 grid in front of you, and then every character has a power that combos off your existing tableau and will score points off your end tableau. So it gives you an opportunity to build up. So let's say these characters have certain traits, which is really just different colours of shields. There's 6 different colours of shields. They might have single shields, double shields. They might have cost reducers on them. There's a number of things that's on a card. But when you take a card, this will get you 1 money for every red shield you have. And you've got 3 red shields already. You take this guy, he's got a red shield, you get $4. And it only cost you 2. So you've made money out of that transaction. And then at the end of the game, he's going to score 2 points for every red shield in your row. Sweet. I'll put him in the row with my other red shield.
Nice.
And that's what it is. Like you're taking it, you're creating combos of what you're getting. If you ever run out of money, you can take a card face down for money and keys. Keys are points, but they also let you move the messenger between the castle and the village, so you can get access to the different cards or sweep the market. So you don't want to do that because it's spending your points, but the opportunity to get more points by doing so is often too tempting. So it does exactly what it says. You're comboing in the castle, and now there's a small expansion which is great for adding a little bit of depth. It gives you a delayed ability when you take it. So instead of getting 1 coin for every red shield you've had at the point you take it, it now comes with a key, which is a point at the end of the game. But at some point you can spend it, and then you'll get the key, 1 coin for every red shield on your tableau. So you can take it early and spend it later. It's just another little bit of comboing within one's castle that you can do, and it's top fun.
Yeah, this takes sort of like those fixed grid tableau builders like Everdell or like Earth, and sort of boils it down to its core components and then makes it fast and quick and parsable. I enjoyed Castle Combo when we played it. You know, I like that puzzle, and I like that this does it in a way that's very, very quick and also gives you a competitive little marketplace to agonize over.
Yep. And the game, as you get to know the cards, you're like, okay, well, I've got greens and yellows. I know if I get the Plague Doctor, he scores of greens and yellows, and I know he's in the village, so I'm going to sweep the row and try and find him. And decks, there's enough cards in the deck that you're not guaranteed that by any stretch of the imagination, but also there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Yeah, so it's good for a variety.
Yep. We talked about Castle Combo on episodes 17, 29, and 35. All right, now we're gonna take a break from all this, agreeable reviewing. Yeah, to have a debate about a game that you dislike and I very much like. But I can understand your perspective on this one. But I rate Civolution very highly. I really enjoyed it. Now, I think there is a question about whether or not I'd pick it over Castles of Burgundy. I think it does scratch a different itch. I mean, they're obviously both action selection dice games from Steffenfeld, but they're very different.
Yeah.
They're very, very different. Barry likes Castles of Burgundy.
I think Castles of Burgundy's got a reasonable chance at being my favourite game at any given time,
Yeah.
Civolution does
well,
not.
likewise. Civolution is long gone. Barry's done with it. It's too many resources. The artist in this is Dennis Lohausen, and the publisher is Deep Print Games. We talked about this on podcast 22. So I've played Civolution a whole bunch of times since we last discovered it. I've now got the mini expansion acceptance letter, which is arguably sort of like a prelude, really, more than an expansion. It really is just a few little extra things to throw in its setup and modules. It's so funny. The rulebook like makes out like the expansion is modules that you might want to slowly introduce over time, and then the game's like a 4.2 already. And it's like, oh, you might not be able to handle all these extra bits. And then it's like 4 tiny things, you know? So I think the expansion is just auto-include, throw it in. There is one module that just lets you start with like some extra stuff, which is super good because it just gets the ball rolling a little bit more quickly. The game itself presents as a sort of a 4X where you're building a civilization over time. It might, from the most very technical sense of the term, be 4X, but because it hits those 4 keywords, you know, exploit for resources, explore the board, exterminate. You can kind of punch each other out of spaces. It's not really a thing. And expand. You're definitely making people and expanding across the board. So, but it's not really any of those things, really. It's a very strange Euro game where it has this unique tableau building system where you're building cards up and out in tiers. And that's where like the game has points coming out the wazoo. Loads of things give you points. A lot of your points are coming from this strange card tableau you're building. And I think that really planning how you're going to build that tableau and what you're going to put in there is kind of the most important part of the game, because it gives you powers, it gives you so many points, it snowballs, but everything gets more expensive. And I think this is probably where your key criticism of the game comes in, because a lot of those cards that you're playing have resource costs, and there are 25 different resources or whatever there are, and like they're very, very difficult to find. Some games you might not even see them all. And I do think it is in that way. There are two sort of key mechanisms, right, as well, because the game is round based. There's some amount of player agency over how long the rounds last, because you throw these D6s and then the D6s are spent to trigger your actions. And the actions are all in a grid, and based on what numbers you've got and how you combine them, because each action is 2 numbers, how you combine them will give you access to different actions. Whether you can get those actions or not will largely depend on what dice mitigation resources you've accumulated and whether you roll. After you've spent a certain number of dice, you can then take a refresh action to refresh them, but you can try to spend all of your dice before doing that, because that feels a little bit more efficient because I got my full value. However, if other people are not doing that, they will expedite the game, because after a certain number of refreshes, that's when the round ends. And so there is a lot of, this is a game that looks as though, so it presents as a heavy Euro. It looks like you really want to build a strategy. You kind of have to have a plan for filling your weird card tableau, but also you have to play very tactically, because the dice you get and the actions you'll have access to are somewhat outside of your control. So I fully concede this is a really strange and baffling puzzle. I actively got worse at it over time. The first few games I played were my highest scoring games, and then as I started trying to deconstruct the puzzle and build a strategy and get like better at it, I actually ended up getting a lot worse. I'm still not sure if the only reason I know that there's a skill to be developed is because I sat down with somebody who'd played a lot of it, and they were like, oh, this is how you play this game, by the way. I've played loads of it. And then they got an incredible score that I'd never seen before. So I was like, all right, there is definitely skill here to be developed, but you need to understand these sort of inscrutable mechanisms, and you need to parse the value of this dice mitigation in specific moments for actions. Like very often I'll have upgraded an action. Each action has like 3 tiers it can go through. And so you're like, oh, I've upgraded this action a few times, so I'm definitely going to try to do that a lot because then I'm getting the most value for my dice. But then it's like in that moment, that wasn't worth doing because this one thing over here would have enabled you to get this part of your card tableau, and then that would unlock all this other stuff. And it's just like, oh, you know, yeah, I see that now. Way too late.
Yeah.
I think that this game's puzzle is weird and unique and compelling enough that I'm pleased to play it. I'm pleased to have it around. It does not feel like it's as interactive as the games I generally like. I think this can feel a little bit more like sort of solo play. There is, you know, some competitive marketplaces. There's competitive board exploration. You get quite a lot of points from exploring the board. So you want to be doing that first if you can. But then if it's not part of what you're doing, and I think it is a bit of a trap actually, because I think focusing on the card tableau is way more profitable.
Yeah.
But then you see people start exploring and you're like, oh shoot, I want to do that because they're getting so many points. But actually you'll just massively catch up and eclipse them if you did the card tableau better. And the card tableau is difficult. But then, you know, in a game with experienced players where like people are really kicking the exploration down the road because they're focusing on the card tableau, now you don't know where the resources are, and it's like, how do you even play cards? So, you know, it's a sort of weird, inscrutable puzzle. I can totally understand why you bounced off it. I really think that this is potentially a sort of a heavy Euro game for people who like to be able to plan ahead and like to be able to sort of strategize, but are not married to the game being consistent, you know? Like this is like, you have to do it for this iteration of the game, which is completely unique because the cards that come out are all in big decks and you're never going to see those whole decks. And there's only so much card hunting you can do. You definitely can't poach a specific card. There's no point in learning them all. You've just got to deal with what's come out at the time. But then they go into a discard, which you can hunt through. So if you want to go back for one later, that's much more achievable. Anyway, it's sort of wild and weird. And I think from that angle, it's interesting and unusual. And so for people who are maybe tired of over-familiar games or games that have a huge skill curve because once you've learned the sort of intricacies of the mechanisms, and to be fair, this has a huge skill curve too. Like, you know, I got my ass whooped by this guy that played a lot more than me, right? But I think that skill curve is probably less consistent, and it's going to depend on the unique makeup of each game because so much of the setup is randomized as well.
I mean, possibly it's all a bit random. I mean, I think actually James Perrid, who owns 3 games and is rated 17 on Board Game Geek, said it best. Easily and by far the worst board game in existence. 1 star.
That can't be right. It can't be worse than that Vegas thing that you got.
Frankie DeVries. I actually think that Stefan Feld had done something with his wife because he's also rated Castles of Burgundy as a 1. Let's just combine a horrible pool of luck with boring and bland mechanics and hope that the game is good. Unfortunately, it isn't. The games are repetitive, the boards are boring and uninspiring, the theme is cardboard. Way better games out there to play. Seriously.
Well, now I can understand a complaint about the production value of the original Castles of Burgundy. Yeah, it was pretty rough. But the game was so good we didn't care. And yeah, I mean, you have to play around the dice. And you have to do that in Civolution as well. It's just there's a lot more of them. And what is good to do is much less easily observed, right? I think I'm definitely pleased to play Civolution. I'm always happy to play it, but I can totally understand why it's not some people's jam.
This guy owns 3 games and he's only rated 2 of them.
Barry, I own like over 2,000 games. I've rated 1. I just don't use BGG.
As a percentage, he's done 66% of them. Come on.
We're now just randomly calling you out on BGG.
Yeah.
If you've posted on BGG, you're next. Be careful.
Lols. No, yeah, it's not for me. So this will not
Fair
be
enough.
making.
If you like Civolution, definitely get Acceptance Letter. It's just good. It just adds some stuff that just kickstarts the game, makes it a little bit more. It lets you just get into the good parts more quickly.
Fair. Right, we're into the top 3. And for me, that is the best card game, which we've already mentioned, and is Compile Main 1. So,
Sorry, this is Barry's top 3. I have one more.
Do you only have one more? Yeah, but you've played some.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, 2 of these are not on the list, my list, because they're on your list.
Yeah.
And actually, this one we've already talked about.
Yeah.
But yes.
So yeah, we've spoken about it. It has made my top 3. I think the Compile 1 and the series of Compile is good. It's an Airland Sea style lane battler. It's cool, right? It's got cool cyberpunky type art where you're saying, where AI is compiling our code, and the cards. You didn't even mention the production quality. The cards are shiny, and that's like that's a new thing that lots of things are doing now. But shiny cards. In fact, Kinfire Delve has shiny cards as well. It's really cool. But Compile kind of makes it towards the top because I lean towards card games. This is a pure card game. There's no other components. There's only cards and sleeves if you're me.
There's a playmat.
I don't know. Not even for just.
I like the playmat. It helps me keep track of what's happening.
That's all I need. But yeah, it's highly interactive. It's deeply rewarding if you play a lot. You're talking about drafting the protocols and understanding what each does. It does really lend itself to conscientious decisions at that stage. So even though you're not making your deck to begin with, you are aware of what your opponent might take. I don't think there's anything that's like a proper hard counter to anything you pick, but there are some that definitely have better matchups than others. And knowing which ones are actually quite weak, like Metal's not a strong pick for anything really. But you might end up picking it if you're more experienced at the game or whatever. I don't think there's any easy way around the balance issues. I think you've probably got version 1 as well. There's some errata and updated cards for the different versions that have come out. But they're not big changes, just clarifications on the rules. And speaking of the rules, there are some uncertainties that crop up at times, but you can work them out, and there is a big FAQ, and they're all kind of dealt with on the forums. But yeah, great game. Looking forward to Compile 3. Look forward to playing more Compile in general. I think I like it better than Airland Sea. The other sort of lane battler games I have are, the battle line medieval. Yeah, I like that. Sort of the shot and totting. What else I've got? There's lane battlers.
Battle line is the Knizia one.
Yeah, and
that's somewhere. Yeah.
The Pillars of Fate, I want to say I picked up as well. I think Compile beats it out. I'm not sure Pillars of Fate's a keeper because it's the same itch but different. Compile's just very neat. It's very compact. It has abilities on cards when you play them, abilities while they're uncovered because you're playing cards on top of cards. Some cards have abilities when they are covered. Like the design space of what's there is interesting, and a lot of it's to do with timing and making the most of what you've got, and that's just the mark of a good card game, if you ask me.
Yep, and it's a good value proposition, and it's fully compatible with Part 1, Part 2.
Part 3 when it's out.
Nice.
So, top 2. Both of my top 2 are rated as 9s, so either one of them could have been my game of the year, but this one is going under the best co-op umbrella, and it is Leviathan Wilds, which I mentioned at the top of the podcast, perhaps. It's published by Mooncrab Games, designed by Justin Kempinen, something like that. He's worked for FFG and stuff. He did Warhammer Quest, the card game. The artist on this one is Samuel R. Shimota, who's done some art for Pandemic Legacy, Zero, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game. But not the I don't think he did the stained glass part, so he must have done something else. Not 100% sure. But anyway, this is a fantastic game, and it would have probably won solo game of the year as well. But for true solo, you're generally mashing 2 players together, or you're playing two-handed solo. So it's not quite the same game as it is as co-op. And I was very surprised, having started playing this solo, that having played it with more people, it was even better. The game is you're a climber trying to heal these massive creatures who've been blighted by these crystals. You have to move around on their back, Shadow of the Colossus style, and you get a real sense of scale for these creatures. Like it's not easy to move across the whole thing, unlike, say, Wraith and the Giants, which is another sort of monster boss battler type deal. Leviathan Wilds uses a card system as well to for your action for a turn. You play a card and do a thing that's on it. The cards are multi-use. You can pitch them to do a thing, or you can play them for their action, and you'll often find yourself combining all the different actions on your cards to get to what you need to do for your turn. So you might need to pitch a card to power up your movement card, which is going to let you move across otherwise damaging terrain to get to where you need to be, to then play your card to attack the crystal and chip it off to win the game, right? And as you're moving around, you might fall from your location. You might have a card that'll let you grapple on. You might have a card that you might set it up in a way that you fall onto a ledge and stop. There's a whole bunch of really neat combinations that you can do, particularly when you're about to get hit, that let you avoid that hit, let you avoid that damage, let you avoid that blight, all the bad things that could happen to you, as well as clever combinations that let you get to where you're trying to be and do the thing you're trying to do. And it's just super cool fun every time I do it. Yeah. If you're not interacting with the game at that level, I don't think it might be quite as much fun. I think if you're just if you find the game quite, play it by the numbers and you can't see those clever moves, I think you might rate this a bit lower. I think you still have a good time, but I think you'll struggle to beat some of the bosses or heal some of the bosses. But there is a really neat combination system in there that lets you do things that you don't initially think you can. And then you're like, oh, but if I did this, then this, and then this, yeah. And then, you spent your mushroom to move you that one space first, which lets you drop for free to replenish your hand, to then move up and without going all the way back to the bottom and have to climb to the top again. So I've rated this a 9. It has a strong possibility of hitting a 10. The new Shattered Peak expansion is coming to Kickstarter pretty soon. Keep an eye out.
Probably GameFound, right?
Probably GameFound, yeah. One of the crowdfunding.
Their last one was on GameFound, that's all.
And it's really, really good. Definitely backing it, even though I've still not defeated all the Deep Veil monsters. And it is one of the few games where I track which characters and what bosses I were fighting in combination, so I can try and maximize all the content that's in that box.
Yep, I've just written down hard agree. I love Leviathan Wilds. I've had a really good time playing it. I did start out playing it true solo, and I was like, not sure about this. And then I tried it two-handed. I much preferred that.
Yep.
And then I played it co-op, and I was like, yep, this is great too. I enjoy it both ways. I would probably play it more co-op, except it often gets overlooked for like other multiplayer games. So, but I really enjoy it two-handed, and it is really fun. And I have like also had that experience where it's like I show it to people and then they're a bit like, what is this? And then I'll do something really, really cool and they'll be like, oh,
yeah.
Like I didn't even think about doing stuff like that, and then sometimes it's a bit of a bummer because they don't have the right character combination to do that. And they're like, oh, I'm a support character. Here, you can do something else cool again.
Yeah, here, have a mushroom. I'll throw a mushroom at you.
Yeah. But it's quick to set up. It's quick to teach. It doesn't take up much space. It is really pretty to look at. I think for sort of hand management, light to middleweight co-op game. It's really very good. It's hard to beat.
And I think I speak about that in podcast 37. And actually, where I talk about, I very much enjoyed being a support character.
See, I think I'd like that as well. I think it's just a bummer for the new players who want to get into it and do something cool, like leap across the world and be awesome and smash up the crystals. And then they're like, oh, actually, I can help you do that better. Yeah. I think, like, from my perspective, I would quite like to be a support character, but I've not played it 3 players yet. I've only done it duos.
Fair enough. So, Game of the Year. And it's a game spoken about in a number of podcasts. Once or twice. And that game is Bombusters. And so this is published by Pegasus Spiel. Designed by Hisashi Hayashi, who also did Trains, which really needs to get a reprint. Trains needs a reprint.
Yes, and where's the Trains reprint?
It needs a second edition. There's a couple of bits that need tightened up and
just do a fancy big box reprint. Look at all those expansions, take out all the best bits, offer some holistic product.
Yeah. I'm really surprised that nobody's picked this up. Like Trains.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I spent ages tracking it.
And it's Trains.
And it's choo-choo Trains, baby. The artist on this one is Dominique Fairland, and that art is lovely little cute animals who then go out and defuse bombs, just like in real life. So this is a cooperative game, cooperative deduction game, where players are working as bomb diffusers. You have access to some information, which is cables or wires, I should say, numbered 1 through 12, along with some bad wires that you don't want to cut. And on your turn, you are picking one of your teammates' wires and one of your wires to cut simultaneously and hope that the bomb doesn't go off. And if those numbers match, great success. And if they don't match, then the fuse ticks down faster for what it is. So that's kind of it, right? The game comes with a bunch of other bits, right? So there's stuff to help you deduce what numbers your opponents have. First of all, you've lined up your cables or your wires 1 through 12 in order. However, the red wire is like 8.1. So it sits between your 8 and your 9. And there's no real way for your teammates to know whether that's an 8 or a 9. You're able to give some clues. You can put a little tag down at the start saying, depending on the mission, this is an 8. Well, why would you have told me that's an 8? Is it because like the one next it's a 9, or because the one next it's 8.1? Or is that your highest 8 or is that your lowest 8? Because you have multiple of the same number. And so trying to figure out what people are telling you with the limited amount of clues that they can give you, using the equipment that you get for the mission, utilizing your own double cut action. You know, if you're like, well, I know where something is for you and something is for you, but if I don't cut both of them, you're going to think I've got it. And so I'm going to have to take this double cut action and cut your one and your one. And the other equipment that just, gives you some insights. It's like, well, actually, I can pick your whole board this time. So if you've got a 7 anywhere, reveal it and I'll cut my 7 and put it down. And so the game has 66 missions of varying difficulty and varying complexity. They're not necessarily, they're kind of linear, like they get harder as you go on, they get more interesting as you go on, but it's all locked in this legacy style box where after doing the first 20 missions, or after the first 10 missions, you get the first box and you get a new ability, right? And then the next box you'll get maybe some new components that you can use in further subsequent games depending on the mission, and there's more boxes, and each time you're opening something, and there's stickers, and you get stickers, and it's like, okay, well, or you get a sticker on your tray of wires if you mess up twice in a row, and you get the dumbass sticker, right? Or you get the one on the side where you can put it on the side of the box, and it's not really legacy elements. You can go back and you can play any mission at any time, but you get this kind of just fun activity of it. So this game, I'm only in the 20s, right? I've started this game with 3 or 4 different groups, and we've always gone back and just replayed ones. The core part of the game is tight. The extras from the different missions are not necessary, but it's very cool that they've added all of these things, and they do change things up significantly enough that it's worth going through the whole thing And if you can get with a group that plays it well, that understands what's going on, that's into it, that they don't take too long. Like if there's a decision to be made and we're unsure, but we've got a couple of lives left, they're willing to take that risk, right? They're not just going to sit there and just be like, I don't know what to do, I can't do anything. I'm just going to, I've got 4 wires the same, so I'll just do mine, but that doesn't help anybody else, right? Those kind of things. So and it gets better the more beers you have as well, because as people's decision-making skills lessen, suddenly that life countdown becomes more and more meaningful.
Yeah, for sure.
As people are just willing to make a bit mistakes that they wouldn't normally make, or fun. So it's a
Look,
good
the
time
information's there. You can work it out. People just need to be on the ball with sharing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't give me a clue to where your middle 9 is. That doesn't help me. Right? If you've got 3 9s, showing me where the middle one is doesn't help me. Unless
You're
I
just
have
about
the
to
last
cut
9.
2 of them anyway.
Yeah. So as understanding that off the limited information you can share, why it matters and where it matters, and like getting on a wavelength where, well, why are you telling me that? That's useless, or is it? Oh, maybe it's not useless.
Well, you've played a lot more of this than me, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a game where pretty much all of the information you're getting to deduce what's actually happened, because like there's core bits that are really consistent, right? Like, you know how many dangerous wires are in.
Yeah.
You know how many numbers exist, right? So you've got these sort of very basic heuristics to work off of. But the vast majority of the information you're being given is coming from other players.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to solve this puzzle, you really need other people to be giving you good information to help you solve it.
Yeah, and it's not so much information, right? There's very limited information you can give. At the start of many missions, you are allowed to highlight what one of your numbers on the wire is. And that's about all the information you give at the start. So then it becomes which wires you're cutting from your board to give information. And so if you have 3 3s, again, like, don't remove your middle 3. Take your highest or your lowest one, and then I can perhaps assume that the one to the right of that or your left of that is a 2 or a 1, or maybe it's a 1.1.
Yeah, because every time you cut the wires, you flip them face up and people can see them, right? So,
you build up a picture.
Trying to telegraph what's important about your particular board by the choices you make.
Yeah. And what this absolutely cannot devolve into, and I don't know if it's possible if it can, Hanabi. Have you ever played Hanabi with people who play Hanabi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't. They're not fun people. Right? If you've got a card, you have to hold it this way, and if you hold this, if I'm holding this upside down, then that means this. And if I do this, then this means this. And it's like, well, no. I'm not doing that, so
I'm not learning your bespoke
because it's the same thing as just telling
system.
Me. Like, if the communication is that if I have a 7, well, you won't really know, but like if I put a card like this,
Look,
then
the game is about limited communication. Just because you're using Thieves' Cant doesn't mean you're playing in the spirit of the game.
Correct. So so I don't think Bombbusters can necessarily devolve into that, but also I'm not playing with people who would devolve into that. But oftentimes there is a shorthand where, if you're taking that 3, I can assume either the one to the one up is probably the next number up, or the one down is the next number down. You've not taken the one in the middle, is the point.
Mm-hmm. It's been a little while since I played this, but I would like to get it back to the table. It's really fun and I enjoy it a lot. I think this is a best fit for people who are sort of enjoy these sort of puzzly deduction games, but enjoy them in a setting where you're having some beers and a laugh. It's definitely not probably going to be quite enough for people who want to sit down and really get their heads into some complex puzzle.
It's no Turing machine.
No, but also it requires a little bit of focus and concentration as well. Because if you're not giving away some clues, giving away some consistent information, then it can seem quite unsolvable. But yeah, I really enjoyed Bomb Busters. I'd like to get it to the table more often. And I'd like to get it to the table with a group who'd be interested in, like, going way up there. But likewise, I have not had consistent players for this either. So we've not breached the lofty heights of post-Mission 20.
All right.
Well,
anyway, we speak about that podcast 13, 16, 19, and 29. Is that good?
And now 41.
And now 41.
Well, my game of the year for 2024 will come, I think, as no surprise to literally anyone. It is Ark's Conflict and Collapse in the Reach. Of course, I would have to pick something incredibly polarizing that people love. The Marmite of board games.
Mm-hmm.
So this is designed by Cole Whirler. The artist is Kyle Farron. And this was published by Leader Games, but moving forward, it will be Buried Giant Games. And Cole Whirler left Leader Games to start his own board game company and agreed as part of the exit package that he would take this as his flagship product, which, goes to show that he believes in it a lot. This was a crowdfunded campaign. It shipped with 2 expansions, a tiny little expansion called Leaders in Lore, which is great, and a huge big box expansion called The Blighted Reach, which kind of factors into why this is my number one, because The Blighted Reach is so good. But I think this stands up on its own. If I didn't have The Blighted Reach, if I never played it, it just wasn't an option, I would still have this up here. I've played the core game so many times. This has eclipsed my next most played game by an incredible margin, and I'm always excited to get it out to the table. Usually when I bring it to the club, it actually comes out several times in a row because people are like, let's do it again. It's just, it is a highly competitive game. It is the best defense is a good offense personified. There is almost no reward for striking second or playing defensively or turtling. It is highly tactical. You have to adapt and overcome. It's not a game for long-term planning of strategies. It is a game where the actions are determined by a hand of cards. You're playing a number of rounds or first to 30 points. Usually it ends on first to 30. I've rarely seen it go the full 5 rounds, but it does sometimes. I say first to 30. It varies based on player count. But I think it's typically around 30. We usually play this at 4, but it actually works great at all. Okay, 2, 3, and 4. There's no solo mode, although I think someone made one. I haven't tried it. But you've got to, because you draw this hand of cards round to round, you've got to be sort of evaluating the possibilities of the hand this round, but you've got to be prepared to be surprised by what becomes possible. You can copy actions off of other people's cards. You can usually rely on some people to play the action cards you need at some stage, but when it comes out and what they're doing with it is unpredictable. So it's hugely tactical. You've got to be constantly aware of the board state. If a player is left unperturbed, they'll probably just win. They'll probably end up perturbing you if they can't win on their own, because the only way to score points is by declaring these ambitions, which all award different points for different things. But if nobody declares what's scoring this round, then nothing scores this round and nobody gets any points. So somebody has to sacrifice actions to turn on point scoring. And I say sacrifice actions. No, you don't sacrifice any actions. You actually just give your opponents really good opportunities to take more actions and steal the initiative, which is incredibly important. And knowing when to grab that is also another key thing that's sort of difficult to understand. And I think if a player's left unperturbed, they will probably just win. So then you're spending the game figuring out who to punch, and it's quite hard to know sometimes who to punch, what people's capabilities are, what's in their hand, etc. But I just think, for me, this game is so replayable because it's really all about the players at the table. It's about the attitudes of the players at this specific table and how they play in this specific game. I've never played, my first few games of this, I didn't appreciate it this much, right? I was definitely like, this is very strange. I don't really know what this is. And the more I've played it, the just more I've enjoyed it, the more I've come to sort of understand it and realize its scope and how to understand what it's telling me. And I think, it's got a skill curve for sure, but I do think so much of your success is reliant on the table and the other players, which does mean if somebody is a leader, everyone has to gang up on them. That's what I'm talking about, reading the board state. Unperturbed player will just win. Unless people keep switching on things they can't score. One of the things scores for murdering. And if you're not murdering people, then you won't score that. Simultaneously, if you want to be left alone and you're murdering people, that's just not going to happen, is it? So there is this sort of ecosystem to it where players are naturally sort of antagonized into attacking a leader or someone, especially if they've turned on a aggressive points objective. But what's really interesting about it as well is if you're looking at your hand at the start and you're like, this isn't what I expected, I don't really know what to do with this, you can also look for declaring ambitions that are going to pit your enemies against each other. And that's a really sort of interesting sort of counterplay where you're like, this chapter I can't see, that's what the rounds are called, chapters. I can't really see an avenue to points necessarily, but I could maybe use this to shore up some opportunity in the future or some points. So what I really want to do is turn on some competitive ambition that I'm going to force my opponents to fight over while I try to get the most out of these other cards in hand. Like, it's just got these sort of strange heuristics, but it works really well at all the player counts. I really like the art. Some people prefer Eclipse or Twilight Imperium, super serious sci-fi art. I really like the cartoony Kyle Ferret art for this. The game's, it's also just, I find it incredible. It's like Root, right? Like if you like the Root presentation, you like the Arcs presentation. If you don't, if you think it's too silly, this is the same one. But I think it looks great. I think the design is great. Just the presentation, the product. I think that it's a tiny box. It takes like no time at all to set up, and it's not very expensive to buy. I think it's a really good value for money product, provided you like this sort of thing, Yeah. And I think there are some rules. I think the thing is, once you understand the full rule set, you will find avenues to achieving your goals. But I do think that this is a sort of a gamer's game. It will, I think, for a lot of people just feel incredibly unscrutable and they won't really know what they're supposed to be doing. I think that there's not a lot of low-level heuristics. Like the heuristics are get points, and then it's like, and in order to get points, turn on the objectives. But it's like, I just sacrificed a really good card to turn on the objectives, and now everybody's competing, and I'm never going to get any points, and I don't know what I did wrong. And I think that's a lot of people's experience with the game. And I can't fault them for that. I do think that was my first experience. And I think it's not everyone's interested in trying to figure it out. And I can't blame them for that. I do think it is a hard to get. Even now, I think one of the things I like about it is I'm not always sure what's right to do, And so now I think rather than the game becoming easier to understand, I've just shifted to a place where I'm enjoying the unpredictability and the chaos, But it always keeps it surprising and keeps it exciting, which I really appreciate. And in those clutch moments, and the thing is, I have gotten better at it. So there is a consistency, there is a skill level that you can improve on. So it's not just, random nonsense, but so much of it is about understanding the table as well. And the players at the table.
If we go back to some of the previous podcasts, we've discussed this. Obviously, I did not have the best learning experience where we got the rules wrong 3 times for the first 3 games, and then every now and again I hear that they've taught it again and taught the rules wrong within the group. But yeah, I don't hate this the way I don't dislike this the way I dislike Civolution. I don't particularly enjoy this, but it's just perhaps not a game for me. We did consider whether we're going to play this more or Root, and we've gone back to Root. Just to think that's more sort of our speed. I'm looking at some of the reviews on Board Game Geek there, and there's a fair number of ones for people that just like, this is awful, it's the worst game I've ever played, and I don't think that's the case. But I do think it is not a game for everybody.
No, I mean, in many ways, I'm surprised by how many people like this.
Yes.
I think it is very rewarding. I think it rewards sort of investment in it and understanding of it. I think that it's just incredibly tactical and incredibly aggressive, and you sort of need to be somewhat manipulative. You need to know sort of hiding information, playing out information. This is not a game where you build alliances. It's not a game where you even build temporary alliances, or over-the-table alliances. This is not a game where you can play defensively. You cannot. You just can't play defensively. You will always lose if you try that. So it is putting you in a position of, the best defense you can make is, if you attack me here, I will have to punch you back. Yeah. If you don't, I will go and punch our bigger enemy who's a bigger threat over here, and that's, but that's not really an alliance. That's just sharing an analysis of the board state. And people might not be honest about that. It's a very, very competitive game. On the other hand, if they think that there isn't a sort of a temporary truce to be made because you need to drag down the leader, maybe people will be open about that. But it is a game where you have to be doing that. And, I've played this with people who we're getting drunk and it's late at night and we're having a great time shouting, "Get them! Look at that plan that they're doing. Look at all these cards they've got. Look at that thing. They're going to do that thing and then they're going to be doing that and it's going to be terrible for us." And it's great. I've also played this with like the sort of the GMT War Games crowd where everyone's just like heads down and nobody's saying anything. And it's just kind of understood that everyone's like playing on a sort of next level of like understanding what's going on. And like there's no need for any of that because everyone is sort of understood to understand the board state so intuitively, and they're playing on like another level, and that's really interesting as well. And do you know what? It works in both contexts. Like it holds up under both styles, and probably more than that. So I do think it's got that, but. As I say before, as I was, saying, like if you're the player that wants to have a long-term reliable strategy, if you want to be able to sort of plan your turns ahead, like you can sort of have a vague idea about what you're doing, or you can even make a strategy for this chapter, but you have to be prepared to pivot if opportunities arise. If there's some tactical moment where you're like, I didn't expect this potential, I should grasp it, and it's about like the uncertainty of that, because you're never going to know if it was the right decision. And part of that's because also the combat is dice-based,
Yes.
And you cannot, like, I think once you understand the dice and the sort of the actions and that action economy, they're not super random, right? Like you can somewhat evaluate things, but sometimes your evaluation is, oh, I could do this, but it's going to be a hell of a long shot. Mm-hmm. And then it's up to you if you take that risk.
Yeah.
But I don't think Arcs will ever leave my collection. I don't think I'll ever turn down a game of Arcs. I think it's firmly supplanted itself in one of my top spots of all time.
Nice.
And it's a great on-ramp for the Blighted Reach, which is also great. Like, good luck playing the Blighted Reach if you haven't mastered the base game.
Yeah, we're looking at that. And then what's the new expansion?
There's a bunch of new expansions. To be honest, I haven't looked at them in too much detail. I was just like, give it to me.
They're not till 2027, so.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just have I think it's more factions and more cards. I think it's just kind of more of what already exists.
Nice.
And also Feastbringer sucks. You should take Feastbringer out of your leader's deck. You don't need it. There's enough.
Don't know what that means, so. I'll heed your advice.
Did you ever have it? Was it your copy?
No, it wasn't my copy.
So you don't need to take anything out because you don't have the deck.
I'm doing nothing. That's 2024 in a nutshell, I guess, and early 2025.
Hey, I played it in 2024. Still counts.
Yeah, sure.
Still counts.
Lols. No, but good. Quite a good year for games, I think. I think a lot of those games are, in fact, almost all of them are ones I want to get to the table more and play more. So here's hoping in the next 6 months I do just that.
Yep. Well, exactly right. And we'll try to play some games from 2026 and 2025 as well. Although, actually, all I really want to play is games from 1990, whatever.
The old ones, yeah.
It's true. We are getting on.
Quacks. A lot of grey in this beard.
Distinguished, Barry. It's distinguished.
Oh, yeah, we'll go with that.
This is how we know that you've got the knowledge.
I'm a real board gamer, Ma.
Look, you can't deny his academia with a beard like that. But
might be gone by next time.
Oh no!
It's a pain to maintain.
But it looks great.
That's because I look great.
I can't have one, so I'll never know. I'm gonna come on next time with a fake one.
Yeah.
You're just jealous. Anyway, we'll say thanks so much for listening to us ramble on about board games. Let us know if you agree or disagree below. Now, if you have listened to this thing in its entirety, Barry and I are working back to bringing it back regularly. We obviously ran it for a number of years, every 2 weeks or so. And we'd like to get back to that. However, we are conscious that we can probably not continue with 3-hour episodes. And we would like to bring you the news and the reviews and the opinions in a more succinct manner. So it would be enormously helpful for us if you'd leave a comment on this video, wherever you're listening to it. I think you can comment on Spotify and YouTube. If you found it somewhere else, come to the channel on YouTube, Ready Steady Play on YouTube, and leave a comment on this episode. Just let us know what you like. Because what we don't want to do is trim it down, and then cut out all the stuff you appreciate. So do let us know what you like about the podcast, and, we will try to get to the essence of what you like so we can come back regularly. We will, of course, actually be back in a couple of weeks for a UKG episode.
Yeah. Games Expo very soon.
Exactly. Now, whether we're going to talk about new games that are coming out at the Expo or games that we just want to play at the Expo, we're not sure, because we've been looking at the list of games coming out at the Expo.
Yeah, it's not too much. I've got enough that...
You got enough to fill an episode?
I definitely fill an episode with anything, but yeah. There are 70 odd games in my decided or undecided, but there's only really 1 or 2 that I definitely want to get. So yeah, there's enough.
So come back and find out which 1 or 2 are on Barry's must-buy list, and I'll try to come up with some as well. And if you want to make sure you don't miss it, turn on the subscription or the follow or whatever that there is on the platform where you're finding this. Thanks everyone so much for listening and watching, if you watched it. And also, this is not possible without the wonderful support of the patrons. Thank you so much to everybody who chooses to support us financially. This is our preferred way to fund the show, and we really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.